Hello and welcome to Your Choice 2020 primary election coverage, coming to you live from HOMTV studios right here in Meridian Township. I'm your host, Ava Bratz, and this evening is probably the most pinnacle time for not only the candidates, but also the community. Everyone here at HOMTV comes together, socially distanced of course, to keep you up to date on what's happening in Meridian Township as this 2020 primary election comes to a close tonight. Joining me on air tonight will be Township Manager Frank Walsh, near all the action, providing us with the result updates and live interviews with Township leaders.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Frank Walsh. I'm the Township Manager. I'll be joining Ava tonight to bring you the results. But we have a lot more than just results tonight. We have information about a whole number of things, including what's happening with the farmers market. We have our new canine unit here and so much more. It's going to be an exciting night here in Meridian Township.
Thank you, Frank. We will be checking in with you throughout the night. And to everyone watching online, wherever you may be, we thank you for inviting us into your home and making HOMTV a part of your night as we watch the results come in together. Our team of reporters will be out in the field tonight with candidate interviews and project updates. We will be connecting with them via Zoom later on. Speaking of our talented team, let's head next door to reporter Ben Grechko, who is presenting during ballot counting as we speak. Ben?
Good evening, Ava. Yes, it has been a very busy day for Meridian Township officials. They have received 10,673 absentee ballots throughout the day, or for the most part. And that is up from 7,000 during a usual election. Now, they are about 2/3 of the way through of counting the ballots, and officials have told me that they are doing everything they can and all procedures are being followed to make sure that the votes are being tallied safely and securely, and they expect to be done probably about midnight or so. Back to you.
All right, waiting on that final third. Now, before we get in too deep here, I want to thank all of our reporters and crew making the magic happen in the studio for the big night. I also want to stop and make a point to encourage you to watch and engage with our media team throughout tonight's coverage. So get your thumbs ready to tweet in your questions by following our live Twitter feed, followed by the hashtag YourChoice2020. You can also call in to speak with us live here in the studio at 517-349-1232, or watch our live coverage on our website at HOMTV.net and our Facebook page. Either way, we clearly want to hear from you. Another way we can hear your voice is by your vote. This year is the largest number of mail-in ballots in Meridian history, as COVID-19 has given pause to what we've always known as normal voting. To shed more light on the importance of having your voice heard, here's an interview clip from current Township Clerk Brett Dreyfus as he breaks down how this primary election is quite different and how it plays into the November general election.
So in Michigan, we just had a primary in March. It was the presidential primary. The presidential primary is a closed primary, so voters have to select which ballot style they want, whether it's a ballot style that represents the Democratic Party or a ballot style that represents the Republican Party. And in this particular election, in the August primary election, it is an open primary. An open primary means that all candidates for all political parties are on the same ballot, which means that anybody can vote for whichever party they want to vote in, but they can only vote in for that one party. That's a very important point. Only one party in the primary.
All right, thank you for that clarification, Brett. During Your Choice 2020 primary election coverage, we are focusing on 4 local contested races, which include the Meridian Township Clerk Democratic race, the Meridian Township Trustee Democratic race, the Ingham County Clerk Democratic race, and the 8th District Congressional Republican race. We will have more in-depth information about each of these races as the night progresses. We now go to Meridian Township Manager Frank Walsh for a discussion on voter turnout with Meridian Township Clerk Brett Dreyfus. Frank?
Thank you, Ava. We're here with our clerk, Brett Dreyfus, who's been on the township board for 12 years, 4 as a trustee, 8 as a clerk. Let's talk about voter turnout. What have you seen, Clerk Dreyfus?
So as predicted, we had a very, very large AV turnout, absentee voter ballot turnout. So we mailed out, combined us with the state of Michigan, mailed out 29,700, these are rough numbers, 29,700 AV apps to basically every voter just about in Meridian Township. And we've issued 13,270 ballots, AV ballots, that's an all-time record. And we've received back 10,000, close to 11,000, 10,940 ballots have been returned for an 83% return rate on AV ballots. From what we see in terms of precincts, it's hard to say right now what the numbers are. They're varying a lot. Some precincts had less than 100 voters. Some have 150 or more. We're guessing still pretty much 75% absentee vote, less than 20%.
Yeah, great, thank you. So as compared to your race 4 years ago with, I think it was Gaylord Mankowski, only 5,200 Democratic voters came to vote.
Right.
So this is an incredible turnout 4 years later for votes.
Yeah, because of the change due to the pandemic that produced the mass AV mailing, and because of all the publicity and knowledge about AV ballots, there's no way you would ever proceed to these large number jumps from what we did. We did about 7,800 ballots in the November gubernatorial election of 2018. So think about that. Right now, we're at 10,900 for an August primary. Huge.
Yeah, so thank you very much. I know you've got a busy night ahead of you. We'll let you go. So, yeah, so thank you very much for that information.
And thank you so much, Frank. We'll be back to you in just a bit. Now we get to see behind the scenes with reporter Gabby Malta, who was outside the voting precinct earlier today, asking voters about how they felt after their in-person voting experience and why they chose to vote in person during a pandemic.
I'm Gabby Malta here at Kenowa Middle School, where Precinct 7 voters cast their ballot. I had the opportunity to ask voters today why they came out to vote instead of doing absentee. Here's what they had to say.
I don't believe in absentee. I love to come in and physically make my choices and also get a feel for who's coming out and exercising their right to vote.
Instead of absentee, because I'm not worried that much about the virus. That's not something that scares me into the closet. I know some people it doesn't me. We stay a safe distance apart. We wear our masks. I think after everything's all said and done, when the virus is gone, if there is such a thing as it being gone, we should all wear masks anyway.
I just like to hear my ballot go down in the box to see for myself that it's in there. A little bit of it is tradition. It's just the way we've always done it. I think absentee ballot, I've done it in the past and it serves its purpose when I haven't been able to do it in person, but I just prefer doing it in person.
Now that's just what some voters had to say after leaving the polls. Stay tuned to Your Choice 2020 primary election night coverage for the latest election results. I'm Gabby Malta, Precinct 7, HOMTV.
Thank you, Gabby. Yeah, I want to hold on to the normal as much as anybody else. But not only will we be bringing you live coverage from voters, interviews from candidates, and of course, election results, but we will also be providing you with some of the overall goals and projects that Meridian Township is working on in 2020, like Marketplace on the Green, establishing a task force to enhance township diversity and inclusion, the local road construction program, as well as other developments throughout the night. Meridian Township's police department has a new member of their team in the K-9 unit. We now hand it over to Frank Walsh for an interview with Meridian Township Police Chief Ken Plaga, Officer Anderson, and K-9 Aries. Frank?
Thank you, Ava. Our next guest, or guest I should say, need no introduction. Chief Ken Plaga, who's been with the department for 25 years, Officer Blaine Anderson, who's been with us for a couple years, and our special guest, Aries. So, gentlemen, tell us a little bit about Aries and maybe what does our K-9 unit do for us?
Sure. So Aries just turned 1 year old in April. Now, we're a little excited to be here. Aries is a dual-purpose canine, so he's trained in the order of narcotics and tracking, article searches, and protection.
Wonderful, wonderful. About how long does a canine can you expect Aries to be with us on a normal life expectancy for the canine?
Oh, usually if they're in good health, it's enough. 8 to 9 years or so.
Good, good. And you have special handling and training for to handle the dog.
Yes, I went through a 5-week training school at Mid-Michigan Kennels down in Eaton Rapids. Monday through Friday, crazy hours, imprinting them on tracking and odors of narcotics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then off days, it's a daily training.
Wonderful. Chief, how many canine units roughly are there in the Ingham County area? We're not the only department with a canine.
We are not the only department with canine. There's approximately 15 to 20 canines in the greater Lansing area. One of the nice things is if Aries is not working, if Officer Anderson is off, we will then call to a neighboring agency, East Lansing MSU, and ask for a canine. And if their canine handlers are not on duty, we lend Officer Anderson and Aries out to our neighbors. And so it's a win-win situation for law enforcement throughout the community.
Yeah. Well, for Officer Anderson, there's a great bloodline, no pun intended, for great leadership. His father retired as the chief of the Clawson Police Department. And of course, Chief Plaga was named chief here just 2 years ago. He's from Jackson, a Lumen Christi graduate, and grew up in Michigan Center. And he's been just a stellar a part of our department for 25 years this September. Thank you very much for being here, gentlemen. We appreciate it. And to Aries, our special guest. Thank you.
Thanks for having
You bet.
Sounds like Aries is a big fan of that. Thank you, Frank. The Meridian Township Police Department is looking to continue serving the community and expanding their community policing programs, especially due to recent events surrounding police brutality in parts of the nation. The Meridian Township Police Department community policing programs include 144 neighborhood watch leaders, community resource officers providing curriculum for specialized presentations to community groups. At the June 16th Township Board meeting, community policing was discussed. Let's take a look.
Have a conversation about the way the Meridian Township
was going
Police
so
Department
fast.
actually polices. There have been questions from community members and others. I spoke to Rotary this afternoon about policies, procedures, trainings that we provide our officers to try and ensure that we are doing the best job, the best way for the citizens and visitors of Meridian Township. One of the things that we do biannually, and we make sure, is we conduct a fair and impartial policing course. Every officer in our agency goes through a fair and impartial policing training, and then also we've conducted implicit bias training. What that does is that provides at least an understanding that we all have implicit biases and that we have to maintain composure and check ourselves to make sure that we don't allow those to guide our actions. A lot of questions have been about our use of force policies and arrest management policies. Several of those questions have asked, when's the last time that policy's been updated? How is it reviewed? Who reviews it? Well, as you all will remember, we received our accreditation in February, and we had an on-site assessment by outside assessors from across the state, and they checked our policies and procedures for best practices. And one of the policies that has the most scrutiny are those use of force policies, the arrest management policies, to make sure that we are following guidelines that are widely accepted as best practices. Questions have come up about whether or not our organization allows for chokeholds, and we do not. Our policy for years has not had any kind of neck restraint chokehold allowability in it. It is it's kind of, as my letter to the public that hopefully you saw, it's archaic and it's not something that is in modern policing. There are many other ways that we can go about taking control of somebody in a safe manner if it comes to that. But we try to bring things so that it doesn't even have to come to that position. We conduct, every officer that works for Meridian Township Police Department is assigned 3, 4, maybe even 5 neighborhoods. I know that Trustee Jackson, and I think all of the trustees at one time or another, the treasurer, have been at our community policing meetings. We meet quarterly with neighborhood leaders. We have 135 neighborhoods that are assembled and 144 people who They don't all come at once, thank goodness. We would have a hard time with capacity, but come to these quarterly meetings and are updated about what's going on in the township, while those officers assigned to those neighborhoods make sure they make monthly contact. We also have our school and community resource officers that are embedded in both our Okemos and Hazlet school districts. Those build relationships and familiarity with the administration of those districts to make sure that they have a consistent point of contact. And so as our mission statement says, we're grounded in this community, and we listen to our community, and we have the ability for those members to have access all the way to the top, the manager, and we've had community members actually come and make comment, public comment, or send correspondence to the board. I've policed in more locations than just Meridian Township, and I will share with you that our connection to the community is by far more engaging than any organization. And I'm not being disparaging about any other police organization. I'm just saying the way that we do our policing here in Meridian Township is guided by those principles that are brought forth by our community. It's really a special thing if you think about it. If you take a look at some of the other organizations, they try to paint law enforcement with a national broad brush, but we each have our own specific and unique communities, and we take our guidance from those who we police.
And as we switch gears back to the primary election, we now go to Frank Walsh to give us a breakdown of the Meridian Township precincts. Frank, what can you tell us about the voting districts in the township?
Thank you, Ava. We do have 20 precincts, voting precincts in Meridian Township. Some of those are combined. We have two precincts at a number of locations. But just to give you some idea of the neighborhoods and the precincts, if you take a look at the number of absentee ballots that were returned, by far the largest return in precinct was number 17. And the 17th precinct is over off of Hewlett. That would include the neighborhoods of the Okemos Preserve and the Meadows and the Sanctuary and Champion Woods. And next to that would be Precinct 20, which would be Whitehills Lakes, Everette Farms in Precinct 20. 700 ballots returned there, 914 and 17. Precinct 7 with almost 700 ballots returned. Absentee ballots. That's the Shoals and Ponderosa neighborhoods. And Precinct 4 right there with 677 returned. Precinct 8, which is Forest Hills and Cornell Woods, had a return of 665 ballots. Those out of the 1920 precincts that we have, those are the largest returns in absentee ballots that we have. So those are the key precincts that we'll want to hear from later on in this evening to really know where we're at. They'll be the bellwether of this election. So that's where we are with the precincts and the neighborhoods that encompass those precincts.
Thanks for the rundown, Frank. Now, in the early 90s and 2000s, the demographics of Meridian Township shifted, and so did the votes. There are no Republican candidates on the ballot for the local township offices, and here's what that means for Meridian Township as a whole.
Oh, in Michigan, we just had a primary in March. It was the presidential primary. The presidential primary is a closed primary, so voters have to select which ballot style they want, whether it's a ballot style that represents the Democratic Party or a ballot style that represents the Republican Party. And in this particular election, in the August primary election, it is an open primary. An open primary means that all candidates for all political parties are on the same ballot, which means that anybody can vote for whichever party they want to vote in, but they can only vote in for that one party. That's a very important point. Only one party in the primary.
One party it is. The Meridian Township Supervisor, Meridian Township Treasurer, and the Meridian Township Park Commission races are all uncontested in both the primary and general elections. Incumbents will continue to serve the residents for another 4 years. Please note, even though there are no opponents, the uncontested races will still appear on the general election ballot in November. Reporter Ben Gretchko has some information on community responses to what they wish to see from their next Meridian Township board members. Here's that for you now.
technical difficulty. Start reading from the script.
Okay. If you're local and love locally grown food, then it's our lucky day. Along with new guidelines for COVID-19, the Meridian Farmers Market is getting a new home. I was able to go on site to get a deeper look into this gem marketplace on the green. Take a look.
Every summer, vendors come together at
Located on Central Park Drive in Meridian Township, Marketplace on the Green will be an economic centerpiece for Hazlet and Okemos.
It's just really going to be a very fluid space for many activities, and really will serve all ages and interests.
After breaking ground just last spring, the construction is now coming to an end, which will provide a new beginning for many events to come.
We just really expect when people come to shop, they can stay and eat their food and listen to the music, and their children can play on the playground. And you know, that's probably a vision for 2021.
Finishing the restrooms, installing the playground, and pouring the concrete stage are all the final touches the marketplace needs to open to the public.
It's just really going to be a nice family gathering place. And, you know, farmers markets just, they just have this hometown quality to them.
This hometown gem is projected to be finished by early August of 2020.
This project is nearing completion. As you can see behind me, the building has already received its metal roofing. Marketplace on the Green will provide Meridian Township with an updated location for its farmers market, as well as a venue for live music, a playground, and a grassy area for local food truck vendors. As a prior athlete for Sporties for Shorties, this place is near and dear to my heart. We now have Frank Walsh, who's standing by, with the Director of Parks and Recreation, Luann Maisner. They're going to give us a more personal take on what we see on Central Park Drive. Frank?
Yes, Ava, that is a tremendous, tremendous project. It's going to be really the gem of this community for a long time. And how appropriate that we lead into the person who really led this project to come to fruition for a number of years. Luann Maisner, our esteemed Parks and Recreation Director, who was hired, I think, 21 years ago this year, does a phenomenal job for us. Luann, we've seen the project now. Tell us about, how did this dream come about?
Frank, we are so excited about Marketplace on the Green. The farmers market actually started out in the Township Hall parking lot. It was a dirt parking lot at the time in 1974. And in 1978, the pavilion was constructed, and that is what has housed our farmers market over the years. And as years have gone by, the popularity has increased, the vendors have increased, the parking lot has not increased. And so in 2014, the Park Commission engaged in a master planning process for Central Park. Part of that master planning process included the farmers market, and can we still accommodate it here at this location, or should we look somewhere else? The conclusion of that was we need to identify a new location, and so we looked for areas of large pieces of asphalt for parking in the area, and boy, there's lots of those around here. Mm-hmm. And so we were able then to come to an agreement with Meridian Mall and acquire the property. And I believe it was in the end of 2018 when we finally signed the agreement for the property, started the design work, and included our vendors in that process and our community. This Central Park Drive just serves as our community center for activities for us. So we wanted to make it more than just a farmer's market. And so we engaged in the design, and we hired a contractor in July of 19. And then they started working, and then of course winter came, and then COVID came, but they're back at it. And we are looking at construction being completed this month here in August.
That's exciting. So, and yeah, I know you got other great projects going on right now at the Harris Nature Center and Central Park South and the Historical Village. And I can assure you, our 43,000 residents, of course you already know this, but our 29 parks that we have and our 1,000 acres of land preservation property that we have is in great hands with our director, Luann Maisner. Thank you very much for being here, and what a gem of a project we have, and thank you for bringing it to the community.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And diving deeper into those local mom and pop places that are facing COVID-19 backlash, reporter Ben Grechko provides us with a look into the vendors' perspectives from the Meridian Farmers Market.
Market to sell their products, and this year is no different. But right now, we are in a global pandemic, and that means shoppers and vendors have had to adapt to the new normal. Everyone has to wear a mask at the farmers market and social distance. Jessie Gillard runs Kindness Blooms in Okemos. She grows flowers in her own backyard and sells them at the market. Like other vendors, she has had to adapt her modes of selling.
Our model is we try to be like a local farm stand access point for people who want fresh local flowers. So we have a lot of customers who do porch pickups. We also do deliveries. So we've and we obviously do markets. So we've switched to no contact deliveries, no contact pickups. So we've just implemented a system where people can kind of grab and go off the porch.
But she has also adapted to the changing habits of buyers at the market.
I noticed that our first market, if someone was paying with a credit card, they still had to hand me their card for me to swipe it in my little square apparatus. And I could just sense the discomfort of the customer, like, oh, I didn't realize I was gonna have to do that. So last week I switched to all electronic. So I just posted like QR codes of all my different payment options like Venmo, PayPal, our website, etc.
Through it all, she was happy to see her community out at the market buying and supporting local businesses.
The community support has been completely overwhelming. Like not just for me, but for I'm watching of the other vendors and people lining up to get their produce. I mean, it was just really, you can get green beans and cucumbers and flowers anywhere and not stand in line. And to see people, from our community standing in line, the sales we had a better weekend than we've ever had at the market. We were sold out by noon and we had more product than we've ever brought.
For HOMTV, I'm Ben Grechko.
The heart of Meridian is truly unparalleled, and I know I can speak for myself in that I've been utilizing the outdoors more now than ever due to the pandemic shutting down the world. I've been able to explore new parks and see the more rural parts of Meridian. If you've also been unearthing your outdoorsy side, here's a quick look at the increase in park usership due to COVID-19 with the Meridian Township Park Commissioner, Democratic incumbent Mike McDonald.
We're one of the first communities to not only recognize that we had to sadly close down our active recreation and youth sports and adult sports, but also sadly for a while our playgrounds. But I am very proud that Mike Devlin, Luann, and others have been ready when they were able to reopen those areas to, under the proper guidelines, allow now parents, guardians, and friends to bring their kids back to a Hartwick Park playground where there's very adequate sanitizing facilities for them and a nice pavilion next to them. So during the pandemic, I think our trails are just getting huge increase in use. Sadly, of course, our sports teams are at zero, but I think overall our attendance is up. And so trails, walking on a trail, walking on a grass field, all those things are on the upswing. I think people want to get outside and they can't go to the movies.
Right.
They can't watch the Spartans play anything. And, well, you better just go out and do something yourself.
Right. And I think it probably takes care of a lot of maintenance. You don't have to go in there and clear the trails because there's people on them all the time.
Well, you bring up a great point. I think in the Parks and Recreation field, if you take great care of what you've got, such as the pavilion behind us and our parks, that it does kind of shame someone to not throw the McDonald's bag out the window as they're walking around.
Right.
Because everyone else has picked up their stuff and put it in a trash can.
And staying on the topic of parks for just a bit longer, where there's people, there's pets. Tonight, we get to hear HOMTV's Brian Tyler share what's going on with dog parks in the area. Brian?
Thanks, Ava. I'm at Central Park South, where a new giant dog park will be made. So what's going to happen is this dog park is for dogs over 30 pounds, and the completion date will be completed by September. So they will need to provide a necessary pathway to the dog park, and after they complete the pathway, they will install a large dog park fence. So for any township resident who wants to use the dog park, it'll be $20 for one dog and $15 for a second dog. And for any non-resident who wants to use the dog park, it's $35 for one dog and $20 for a second dog. And as I said before, the project will be completed in September 2020. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you so much, Brian. And I don't know what it is about voting that makes me feel like I really did something for society, but wearing a sticker is like wearing a mark of confidence. Home TV Brian Tyler is back again to talk about that. Oh, we're actually going to toss it back to Frank Walsh for a candidate update. Frank, what do you have for us?
Let's focus for a few minutes on the candidates themselves. That's why we're here tonight, to get the results. They've all worked really hard. And we have two candidates, two Democratic candidates for Township Clerk. First being our incumbent, Brett Dreyfus. Brett's been on the board for 12 years, 4 as a trustee, 2 terms as a clerk, and he's seeking his third consecutive term tonight as our Township Clerk. Born and raised in New York, came to MSU to school, and served on the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Planning Commission before taking the trustee seat in 2008, and then re-elected 3 times and going for his 4th overall term with the Township Board. His opponent tonight is Deb Guthrie. Deb Guthrie was born and raised in the community and is a graduate of Okemos High School and Michigan State University, and went on to work for ESPN and joined the township in 1988 in April, and was with the township for 21 years and rose to the ranks of Director of Communications for HOMTV. She left the township in 2019 to pursue an interest in communications and obviously the clerk spot. So tonight you have Deb Guthrie against the incumbent, Brett Dreyfus. Moving over to the trustee race, where we have 7 Democratic candidates going for 4 seats, and the 4 incumbents are seeking re-election. The 3 challengers are James Salahy, who served on the Planning Commission back in 2013 to 15. During that time, the Central Fire Station issue was there, and also the Hannah Loss Development. Mike Kalvashevsky is an information technology professional, had a run for school board in the last couple of years, the Okemos School Board, and does a lot of work for Michigan State University in the Learning System Administration. The third challenger is John Esser. John Esser spent nearly 25 years with the state of Michigan and the insurance department. 9 years on our neighborhood watch, has worked very closely with our police department, and is retired and is now is a continuing musician, and he's performed in California, Florida, and Michigan. Those are the 3 challengers. The 4 incumbents, first we have Patricia Herring-Jackson, who is retired from Michigan State University after 30 years in microbiology. And she spent 16 years on the Zoning Board of Appeals up until 2016, when she decided to run for Township Board. She was elected in 2016 and is seeking her 2nd term tonight as a Township Trustee. The second candidate is Courtney Wazinski. Courtney Wazinski could be, if you look at her history with the Township, it mirrors that of Gerald R. Ford. She's the only candidate who has been on the Park Commission and has been on the Township Board, but has never been elected. She was appointed to the Parks Commission and appointed to the Township Board. When Julie Brixey took to the State House and Phil DeShane moved up to Treasurer, it opened up a seat on the trustee. So Courtney is looking to be her first election tonight, and she's works for the state of Michigan. She's married to Dan and has 2 sons. Kathy Sundlin is also seeking re-election tonight. She came on board in 2016. She's retired from the state of Michigan in the human resources. She put two kids through Hazlitt schools, and again is seeking her 2nd term. The 4th incumbent seeking re-election tonight is Dan Opsimer. Dan Opsimer during the day is the Chief of Staff to State House member Julie Brixey, our former long-term treasurer, and was first elected in 2016. So the 3 of the 4 incumbents came in 2016 and were joined later by Courtney Wazinski. Dan is married to Jamie and has a son, Jack. So we have 7 Democratic candidates going for 4 seats on the trustee spot, and 2 candidates for clerk in the Democratic spot. There are no Republican challengers, so the winners tonight are the winners.
Thank you for that quick live update, Frank. And along with that, the Township Treasurer position will once again be occupied by current Treasurer Phil DeShane. He spoke to HOMTV's Brian Tyler about the 3 priorities he feels the Township Board should tackle next. Here's that for you.
Our goals at the beginning of this year, as we have in past years, and some of them remain the same as they've been ongoing, and they required a multi-year action plan to do them. Our top 2 goals have to be to allocate 100% of our road revenue to roads, to repave at least 10 miles a year, and then another 15 miles we've got to continue to resurface and improve on. Our goal is to improve our road rating from 4.4 now to over 8 in the next 9 years. The second one is to continue to pay down our pension liability. It's time to pay that off, to get us caught up, so that future boards after 2027 won't be facing the same huge liability that the current board has faced. The third goal of this board needs to be, in my opinion, to retain our township manager, Frank Walsh. We have one of the, if not the best township manager in the state. Mr. Walsh is a very talented manager. He brought a lot of good things to the township. He's been an excellent manager of 160 employees. And Mr. Walsh was hired not by this board, but the previous board. And this board has very much benefited from that. So we need to make sure that we keep our current manager. He's done an excellent job, and I expect over the next 4 years to see more of the same from Mr. Walsh. So the board needs to make sure that we retain Mr. Walsh as our township manager.
Meridian Township Fire Chief Mike Hamill joins the Frank Walsh to discuss the township's COVID-19 task force and fire department projects, including the outdoor emergency sirens. Frank, what do you have for us?
Thanks, Ava. I'm joined now with our fine Fire Chief Mike Hamill. Mike Hamill's retired from the Lansing Fire Department. We were fortunate enough to hire him in July of 2018, so he's been our chief for 2 years now. He lives in the community with his wife Janet, who's an emergency room doctor. I know his son, he's very proud of all of his children, and especially Aaron, his hockey player, who's right now playing down in Texas. Chief, thanks for being here. Tell us a little bit about one of the key things that we're trying to do is improve safety. Tell us a little bit about the emergency siren program that is underway.
Well, I inherited this when I started. It's an exciting project, a 10-year project to try to outfit the entire township with emergency sirens to protect our citizens. We've got 8 installed as of today, and a 9th hopefully by September, and then another 6 to go for the 10-year project, and we'll be done.
Great. I know one of the promises that we made to the community back in 2017 during the police and fire millage was we said that our ladder truck, factually, is 20 years old. Now it's probably 21 or 22 years old by now, but we said we're going to set aside money to replace that. And I believe next year is the 4th year, so we should have all the resources set aside, which we do. Tell us about your plans to replace the ladder truck.
So we've been working, well, COVID slowed us down a little bit, but we had a lot of gain where we had some specs in place, specifications on the type of vehicle we're going to buy. We're down to a couple manufacturers. I've been talking to them over the last month, trying to kind of get our final specifications and to determine which one. We're hoping to order it sometime by early winter, and it's about a 300-day build before delivery.
Thank you very much. As you can see, one of the most important services that we provide is our paramedic firefighter service. We have 32 full-time paramedic firefighters, a very professional department, and we're very pleased that we have Chief Hamill leading our department. Thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh.
Thank you so much, Frank. We now get to hear from Meridian Township Supervisor Ronald J. Styka, who is running unopposed in the primary and general elections and will continue to serve as the Township Supervisor. We're going to be asking him some of the biggest challenges he's faced as Supervisor thus far.
Has been a real challenge. And with the Township Manager and the board members, we've been able to do a lot of things that I think have been very helpful. One of the first things we did was we declared an emergency, just like the governor declared an emergency here in Meridian. I declared an emergency, and as a result of that, we had certain things we could do. We decided to delay collection of our water bills for a while. That's something that's within our power, to make sure nobody was shut off from water, because you can't maintain your clean hands and your sanitation without it. So during this pandemic, nobody has been cut off from water, and if they had been, we restored them.
Over to Home TV, Gabby Malta, who has a live interview with Democratic trustee candidate John Esser.
Township, knowing some of the people and some of the issues that people in that deal with. And then a friend of mine asked about whether I might be interested in running for a trustee seat on the board. And I thought about it, and because of the COVID issue that we're dealing with, the Black Lives Matter, the racism that we're dealing with, some of the other things that have brought us to this rather difficult point in our in the year and in my lifetime, that I thought that it might be I might be able to contribute something worthwhile to the township board and decisions that are made for the township.
Great. And has the pandemic affected your campaign at all?
Well, it's no door to door, so everything has been either through the mail or online, basically. And so it has affected it. It's been interesting, and I've gotten a little more education in terms of doing things online than I would normally have had.
All right, so some of your top priorities are equality and diversity. How do you plan to implement those qualities within the community if you were to get elected?
Well, I have to see, first of all, what the current policies are in terms of diversity and equality. They have set up now in the last meeting of the board a task force committee to look at what's going on in terms of that for the township and whether or not, well, to get together with a lot of groups, various interested groups around the township to see what can be done so that we can make recommendations to the board. So you have to see that we need to do more. We need to find a way to bring more people into what's going on in the township and letting people have the voice that maybe didn't have as much of a voice in the past.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for speaking with me tonight. Also, how does your education and background tie into your qualification as a trustee?
Well, I have a bachelor's degree in economics from MSU, and then I spent almost 25 years working for the Office of Insurance and Financial Services for the state of Michigan. And so at that point, during that time, I was working with the Attorney General's office, working with the insurance code. So I was working with laws, court opinions, Attorney General's opinions, and trying to make recommendations to my supervisors, the department heads, and to the attorneys in the insurance department on issues that had to do with life insurance and health insurance, and that's where I got my background that I think made me a good prospect for being on the board and being able to look at things, evaluate them, and make good decisions based on the facts that are in front of them.
Great. And is there anything else you'd like to add?
No. Well, the only other thing I'd like to say is that regardless of what happens with this election, whether I win the seat or not, it's been a very valuable experience, one that I consider to be well worthwhile regardless of what happens. And I would recommend to anybody else that has the inclination and the time to get involved in local politics. It's a valuable personal experience, and the more people get involved, the better off the township is going to be.
Great. Well, thank you so much for speaking with me tonight, Don.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this interview in the rain.
Yes, in the lovely rain.
Nice hat you have there, by the way.
All right, I'm Gabby Malta in Okemos, Home TV. Back to you, Ava.
Thank you so much, Gabby. And we apologize for those technical difficulties, but Gabby pulled it out in the end. All right, now we are going to be hearing from some of the other trustees on how they're going to utilize funds in light of COVID-19. Check it out now.
To use our funds much as we have been and not redirect them to other new purposes that might be in fashion. 2/3 of our budget goes to police and fire. And police and fire is the #1 service that our residents value, they count on, and they expect from us. We need to make sure that we are hiring the best police and fire personnel out there. We need to make sure they've got plenty of training, including training on diversity, equity, and inclusion. But we need to make sure we continue to retain top talent in our public safety area. Second,
funds that are not current short-term or contractually established long-term obligations of the township must be held in the general fund for aid needed by our residents dealing with the loss of income from job loss or local businesses or from loss of revenues from their business shortfalls due to the COVID-19. An example that I would look at is payments to be made, let me see, how do I say this? An example would be the payment of additional funds to MERS, which is the Municipal Employees Retirement System of Michigan. Payments over and above the obligation, the scheduled obligation for payments. These funds should remain in the general fund for use in short-term support of residents and businesses. If it's not needed, if this money is not needed because of the crisis we're in, it can then be forwarded to MERS in the future.
I think the first thing that we need to carry with us through this time is a sense of maintaining and sustaining the quality of life that Meridian Township residents have come to appreciate. And so that as we look to our future budgets and our future plans, first and foremost is, in my mind, maintaining the quality of life and the quality of service to our residents that we have attained to this point.
Well, we need to ensure that our critical infrastructure and critical services remain functional and functioning in a way that is safe for the folks who actually have to do the work. For example, I think it's a little bit telling that a lot of our key services, for instance, grocery store workers and trash pickup, water and sewer workers, that sort of stuff, they're kind of on the front lines in this whole situation where they're required to be to work. And don't get me wrong, we need our water and our electricity and our trash picked up. And I agree that they are critical workers, but I think our community and our society as a whole needs to recognize that their value is much more than maybe what we've assigned to them. Making our community go is got to be priority one, and doing that in a safe and responsible manner.
Yeah, so one of the big things that I've pushed for general fund uses has been our investment in solar energy. So we undertook our first solar array 2 years ago, and then we're doing another one this year, twice the scale of our first year. And so what that amounts to, along with the HVAC project that we're undertaking this year, would be about 30% of the energy usage at the Township Hall would be generated by renewable sources when you take those three projects combined. And that's all general fund dollars that we're using to achieve that. And my goal would be for us to actually achieve 100% renewable generation for township energy use by 2030. And that would have to come from general fund appropriations and continued investment in that area. So that's a commitment that I'm making to the community. And as it relates to COVID-19, one of the good things for the township is that we're not profoundly impacted in terms of our revenue by COVID-19. Property values are still safe. We could see a dip in commercial or professional and office, depending on what happens economically. But by and large, our property tax base has been preserved. And so the impact for us financially is going to be constitutional revenue sharing and statutory revenue sharing. And so, with statutory revenue sharing has basically been eliminated by the Republican-controlled legislature. The constitutional revenue sharing, if we see a 20% drop in sales tax revenue, which is roughly what we would expect to see given COVID-19, that would be about $800,000 to the township's budget. And for that is not a huge impact. We would probably have to look at delaying some of our capital outlay projects a year or two until we can kind of get past the economic ramifications of COVID-19. So thankfully, it hasn't been a huge issue for the township, but what that's allowed us to do is actually invest. We've done 45 small business grants. So these are businesses that were originated and founded here in Meridian Township. And those were very flexible $4,000 grants, unlike the Paycheck Protection Program at the federal level. Business owners could use it to pay the rent or their mortgage payment. It didn't have to go straight into payroll that they may or may not have had at the time. And then we've also used general fund dollars to bolster the Meridian Cares Fund, which now has a record level, 10 times, the level of fund balance it's seen in most years. And it sits at $100,000. So if residents are in need right now, they should reach out and seek help from the Meridian Cares Fund because we're here to help. And then the only other thing I would flag on that would be the Meridian COVID hotline. We had one resident who was at higher risk and didn't want to leave her home to get certain essential supplies. And we were able to get her those supplies and bring them to her. So if anybody has any kind of extenuating circumstances, they should feel free to call and ask for help. Thank you.
Okay, so fortunately, Meridian Township, I think, has a very healthy budget. Recently, we had some grants that were used for economic development purposes and to develop our Meridian Cares pandemic support. So that was in conjunction, again, with our Economic Development Corporation and our Redevelopment Trust Fund. And so we were good with that. That really helped our citizens. We had 45 grants of $4,000 each. So that's where we're standing, but I do believe that Meridian has a very healthy budget. We are continuing to grow in Meridian Township, so that is helping us out immensely.
I'm going to thank my previous board members and management that they were so very proactive in addressing the pensions early on. That's a large budget constraint for many communities. So I want to say that right up front. I feel and will work with Manager Walsh on these careful considerations going into the future and looking at accurate projections on how this may affect us. But quite honestly, Meridian Township may not be affected much at all because most of our tax base comes from property tax. So there's a couple other tax bases that may be affected, including our constitutional revenue sharing as well as our statutory revenue sharing. However, this is a very small part of our tax base, and we're prepared to maybe postpone some outlay projects going in the next 2 years if that's in fact what we have to do. There's some things that the board's doing already to help our local businesses, working with the management, again, Manager Walsh, but we just issued 45 local business grants at $4,000 each to help those local businesses in this time of need. There's not much restrictions on what they can use that for, but a lot of it may be for salaries to keep people employed, or maybe utilities to keep that building open. We're working right now to expedite the process for expanding outdoor seating at both local restaurants and bars so that we can keep that CDC recommendations of social distancing while keeping the businesses alive as well. And I'm not sure that that's been well, if we've done a great job of communicating that. So if there's anybody out there that needs or wants to expand their outdoor seating, you can develop a plan and contact us at the board and or at the development office. other than what I've just talked about, I feel like for COVID specifically, we're in a really good spot. We're working really hard to make sure that our local businesses can stay afloat during this time.
Meridian Township has a Community Resources Commission that organizes human service specialists who created a fund called Meridian Cares. This commission assists our older residents with financial burdens like rent, utilities, and especially needs pertaining to the pandemic. Joining us now is the Community Resources Commissioner, Angie Wilson, to speak with Frank Walsh. Frank?
Yes, I'm joined by a member of the Community Resource Commission who really heads up the Meridian Cares program, the fundraising aspect of it, a former township trustee, Angela Wilson. Angela's from Toledo. Both of us, she was on the board when I got hired, and we had a lot in common. In fact, both working at Bill Knapp's, if I recall. And she's also, if you're in the town hall room, she's responsible for the art program that was brought into the township building. She was a terrific trustee for her 4 years on the board. And Angela, tell us a little bit about your work in the fundraising and I know the township board just made a large commitment to the CRC. So thank you for being here.
Well, thank you, Frank. And thank you to the board and to you for that commitment to the CRC. Well, we, for those of you that don't know, the CRC, we raise money to help those in the community that are less fortunate. And most of the help that we give is for utility and rent support. During, COVID, the eviction moratorium kind of held off a lot of people coming in and asking for that support. But now that that's over, the expanded unemployment benefits has expired as well. So we're expecting the uptick to really start happening and more people coming in for help. So we've been raising money. We've always been raising money, and we really rely on our community for that.
Yeah, and thank you for all the work you do, not only on the Community Resource Commission, but the 4 years you gave to the township on the board.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed the opportunity to work with you, and we got a lot accomplished done together. So there you have it, Angela Wilson, former trustee, her work on the Community Resource Commission, helping those in need, and what better way to give back to the community. And we appreciate your work, and I know that probably going forward, it's going to be more and more of a necessity.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
And I want to thank everybody in the community that's given to us in the past and your continued support. And learn about how to give to the CRC. We're on the township's website.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Former township trustee, Angela Wilson.
Thank you for that, Frank. And before they get too wet out there, we're going to toss it to Brian Tyler, HOMTV reporter, with Leroy Harvey, Environmentalist Stewardships Coordinator, about the solar project. Brian, how are you guys faring out there?
Thanks, Ava. I'm with Leroy Harvey of the Environmental Program Coordinator. We're outside the Meridian Township building where they will be installing 4 solar panels. So, Mr. Harvey, can you tell me how many more solar panels you plan on installing outside the township building? We are looking at installing another 40 kilowatts of solar in other places in the township, including the new farmers market and the South Fire Station. So it won't be right here. This is the first major installation done. But South Fire Station and the market on the green across the street are the 2 next destinations for solar in the township. So can you tell me when this first project started? Well, Meridian Township has been environmentally friendly for many, many years. The first solar panels that we put on were actually on the Harris Nature Center about 7 years ago. Since then, in 2018, we worked with the contractor to install this there. And that year we also bought into a community solar project, which is near the border of Meridian Township and East Miami. So we've been dabbling in solar for many years, and we're also looking at opportunities for energy efficiency as well. It's not just about providing your power; it's about serving it. And what types of positives do solar panels bring to Meridian Township? Well, at the township, we have a goal of reducing greenhouse gases by 80% in the next 15 years. So we are hoping to provide about 50% of our EV through renewable energy, which of course reduces greenhouse gases, reduces acid rain, reduces global warming. There's no nuclear waste involved. Once the panels are installed, it's virtually free energy. This system here is also going to save money. So over its 25-year lifetime, save about $150,000. The other 40 kilowatts that we hope to install later this year will save close to $300,000 over their life. It's saving money and it's saving the environment. All right, Leroy. Thank you. Ava, back to you in the studio.
Meridian getting on the map on more ways than one. Thank you, Brian. And we're going to drop into Frank's office for a little bit. He's got some number updates for us. Frank, tell us something good.
Yes, Ava, we have our first results of the night, but please keep in mind, these are the only results per precinct for people who actually went to the polls today. It does not include the thousands of people who submitted absentee ballots. Let's start with the trustee race. Precinct 12, which is the Wardcliff neighborhood, has Courtney Wazinski and Patricia Jackson at 43 and 42 votes, Kathy Sutherland at 40, and Dan Opsimer coming in at 27. So all four incumbents so far are leading in Precinct 12, which again is the Wardcliff area and over off of Grand River. In the clerk's race, Precinct 12, again, voters who showed up at the polls today, the results are a huge lead for challenger Deborah Guthrie. Deborah Guthrie received 51 votes to incumbent clerk Brett Dreyfus 12 votes. So again, this is Precinct 12, not including the absentee ballots, just the folks who turned out today to vote. But in the Wardcliff area, Deborah Guthrie 51 and Brett Dreyfus 12. 84 to 16% so far. It's early. There's another 13,000 votes to come, but that's where we are so far with our first results of the evening.
Thank you for that, Frank. The Ingham County voters had two proposals on their ballots this year, one being the millage for the emergency 911 service, and the second being the elder person's brand new millage. HOMTV Brandy Yates spoke with representatives for both proposals. Let's take a look at that.
We've been in the process well before I became a commissioner. I've been on the board for about a year and a half. But the funding would help towards our project that we're working on, upgrading our full 911 dispatch system. We've been working with a vendor for a number of years to improve the connectivity. I know there's some new equipment that's going to be purchased and that's going to be dispersed. It can sync up with the new system that we're putting in place. And so, yeah, these funds would help to do that. This is to ensure that, that we're keeping up with the latest technologies to make sure that these calls don't get dropped and that our law enforcement and emergency and emergency and medical agencies can connect with dispatch and get the appropriate response to whatever situation that they're called upon. So yes, that's the major project that in my tenure as a commissioner is that the overhaul of our entire system has been occurring for a number of years.
I feel this very deeply, and from my personal experience with my own parents, but also some family friends that I had the privilege of watching them grow old, and some of them were not able to stay in their own homes. They went into a facility, and it was not a good ending. And so I've been devoting my career to keep helping older people stay at home. So I actually worked in Lansing for many years with the agencies like Tri-County, but other agencies throughout the state. And I represented those agencies with the legislature and with the governor's office and with state government. And so I advocated for older adults. So I have a lot of experience doing this, And I enjoy doing this. And so when I was asked if I would be interested in leading this campaign for the millage, I was very happy to do that.
I'm Connie Rabani here at the Meridian Township Service Center, where Precinct 10 voters cast their ballot. We spoke to a number of people after they voted, and here's what they had to say.
Ooh, I'm not a big fan. You know, there's really no reason to, I mean, unless you're constructively pointing out someone's weaknesses, but just to sort of toss mud is never really a productive way to run a campaign, in my opinion.
I am not a proponent of negative campaigns. I wish that people would concentrate on the positive, because I think that's what our country needs today.
Well, I don't know. I'm not that thrilled about them, but on the other hand, I haven't seen that many local. It's been mostly on the national level.
I would say no, just because I like to do my own research into the candidates and make my own decision. You know, I certainly look to see who people might endorse, but I don't really think it influences who I'm going to pick.
I guess to some degree they probably do. I try to not let them influence my vote, because I feel like I'm the kind of person that goes out and does my research, and I vote for the person that I feel best fits what my ideologies and my beliefs are. But I don't think in this world today that you can say endorsements don't ever influence you.
Marginally. I mean, obviously, if I don't know anything about any of the candidates, the endorsement might mean something. But the more I know about the candidates, the less the endorsement means.
That's just part of what some of the voters had to say after leaving the polls. Stay tuned to Your Choice 2020 primary election night coverage for the latest election results. I'm Connie Rabani, Precinct 10, HOMTV.
Thank you so much, Connie. On the topic of road work, Frank Walsh spent some time interviewing Deputy Director Derek Perry. Frank?
Thank you, Ava. I'm here with another one of our stars on the team, Derek Perry. Derek's our Deputy Township Manager and oversees Public Works, also our road program. I had the pleasure of actually working with Derek in my former position as City Manager in St. Joe. We worked together for 7 years, and then I came over here, and a couple years later was able to recruit him, Derek, to come over here. He's from Burr Oak. He's the father of 4 and just does a tremendous job for us. Derek, can you update us on where the road program is this year, and maybe are you in the midst of putting 2021 together?
Absolutely. Good evening, Frank, and I appreciate you having me here tonight. It's pretty exciting here in Meridian right now in regards to roads. We're in year 1 of a 10-year program, and we're doing 16 miles of road work, 10 miles of reconstruction work or rehabilitation work. The first 2 miles were completed, about 99% completed here within the last week or two, and now we'll be transitioning to the other 8 miles, which is kind of more resurfacing work, and they just actually started on that work this week, so we're making good progress. Great. And then after that, we'll be doing the crack sealing program once the temperatures cool down a little bit.
Really, that's great. And then you're starting, I'm sure, to look toward 2021.
We are, and I'm sure a lot of residents are curious to know what that list is going to be. So we have been doing a lot of field work right now. Again, we kind of start pretty big and then get some estimates and then shrink that down to the final list that we'll be developing over the next 30 to 45 days. Yeah, can you remind our residents, Derek, of roughly, approximately how much money that we spend per year on roads now? With the new voter-approved bond millage, we're pretty much $3.5 million per year. Before that, before the voter-approved millage, we pretty much had a quarter mill, which generated a little over less than $500,000. We had to couple that then what the county provides, which was just under $200,000. So that's pretty much what we had to work with on our 147 miles of local roads in the township. Yeah, it's interesting, Derek, because when this board came on board in 2016 with several new members and a new supervisor, they made a commitment that they were going to fix the roads. And they've kept that promise to the generosity of the voters. And we also made a real promise in 2019 that every dollar would be spent on local roads. Absolutely, that's happening, and we're getting great work. And you'll see work throughout the township, and we appreciate Derek's leadership on that program. It's a very important one. And another
reason to live in Meridian Township, and another reminder that this township board and this staff, when they make a promise, they keep it. So thank you for being here and keep up the good work.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, we're going to toss to Frank for Meridian Township. All right, we are actually going to be asking some of the township trustee candidates their thoughts on infrastructure.
The Meridian Township infrastructure, assuming, well, the Meridian Township infrastructure is good, and progress is being made to do the upgrades and maintenance necessary within budgetary limits. However, demands on our current transportation services do change, and modes of transportation evolve. We must be looking ahead and keeping in touch with these changes. In addition, we must be looking at all possible public transportation options that may provide an infrastructure that is more environmentally sustainable into the future.
So in the last 4 years, I've learned that that in Meridian Township, we don't have a problem like Flint does with the supply of water to our homes and businesses, because we don't have the kind of infrastructure and the age of infrastructure like they have in Flint. And so that has not been a concern of ours. However, I have also learned that in the design and effort to redevelop areas like downtown Okemos, which are among the oldest parts of our township, that is also home to some of our oldest infrastructure, some of our oldest pipes and conduits for moving materials in the township. And so in the adoption of asset management in the planning for redevelopment of downtown Okemos area, there has also been planning to update, replace, and incorporate new infrastructure in this area as we deal with the redevelopment aspects, as well as the rebuilding, restructuring, redesigning of that intersection and that part of Okemos Road leading from Mount Hope. And so we don't have a lot of old infrastructure, but we do, from my observation, we are very careful about how we amend the infrastructure that we have as we grow and redevelop.
Okay. Well, there's some issues. I guess the first thing that comes to mind is the sidewalk on Grand River in between Okemos Road and Park Lake. That is pretty deteriorated. I understand that there was some uncertainty about the BART and if that would, tear that up so that any reconstruction would be pointless anyway, but it turns out the BART didn't go through. And so that sidewalk should be fixed, I think. It's on a main corridor, it looks bad, and it's really the only footpath from the west side of Okemos, along the main corridor anyway, to the east side. So that should be fixed. I think that we would do well to explore solar and wind development. There have been, I think, great improvements in that stuff. I know we are having that solar garden, and I'm totally thrilled about that. I think we should be looking into more of those sort of projects. I mean, solar energy, once you pay for the infrastructure, the power generation is basically free. You have to maintain them and whatnot, but it's green. It's essentially free power once you put in the infrastructure to make it happen. And I think that sort of thing is great. It's something we should explore more fully. I think that single family housing is something that needs to be put on more of a priority here. My feeling in my neighborhood is that a lot of the housing has become rentals for mostly students, which is fine. So we need students help drive the economy, the local economy, and I get that, and that's important. But I also think that maybe the housing codes in Meridian Township, specifically on the border for East Lansing, are a little bit more lax, which provides incentive for people to rent out their houses once they moved on, rent out the house that they were going to sell. And what ends up happening is we get folks who they're not bad neighbors, but they're just not invested in the community in the way that people who are living here for the long term are. So I think promoting single family housing, maybe duplexes, renter or owner occupied duplexes would be another way to go. Just stuff that promotes development, that promotes people staying in the community and being invested with their neighbors, and less of a willingness to, I don't know, have more, allow slumlord type of stuff. Going, and let's see, going even one step beyond that, one other thing that I've noticed that needs work is the railroad crossing at Hagedorn, right near Service Road. I think that has been, quite frankly, dangerous and potentially lethal to motorcyclists for quite some time. My understanding is that is going to get fixed soon, but it seems like it's taken too long, and I don't know what leverage the township has to make those repairs happen. But that's something that we need to explore as well, is for situations where maybe the township isn't responsible for the infrastructure, but it is in our umbrella of our footprint. We need to take steps to apply the leverage that we can to get that stuff fixed.
Yeah, so we talked about roads. The one thing I didn't reference on roads is that we currently, we typically score roads on a 1 to 10 scale. And in Meridian Township, out of our 147 miles, the average today is about a 4. And that's why
We are now going to transition to your list of Ingham County clerk candidates and possibly a results update from Frank. Frank, what's the word?
Okay, I want to make sure I have the right. Going for Ingham County clerk, we have the incumbent Barb Byram, and she's being challenged by Dakia Quinney Davis. And Dakia Quinney Davis is actually an employee here in Meridian Township, and we're very fortunate to have her. Dakia is a father or a mother of 2, and her father is the Register of Deeds, Derek Quinney. The incumbent is Barb Byram, who's a former state representative. Her mother, Barb, chairs the MSU Board of Trustees, and she's been elected twice as county clerk, 2012 and 2016, and is seeking her 3rd term. She is also the mother of 2. So it's Dakia Quinney Davis, the challenger, Meridian Township employee, versus Barb Byram, the incumbent. That is a look at your Ingham County clerk race.
Okay. Thank you, Frank. And now here's a short clip of the Democratic Ingham County clerk candidates' answers to their importance on technology from now and the future.
I believe that it's imperative that we keep the clerk's office on the cutting edge of technology so that we may assist Ingham County residents, making their experience as easily as possible. With budgetary and statutory restrictions, it's not always possible to have the most up-to-date equipment, but I have fought hard to ensure that we bring Ingham County Clerk's Office into the 21st century. With the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, I have been working with the county's IT department to explore how we may better provide online services to Ingham County residents so that those residents seeking vital records can do so from the convenience and safety of their own home while maintaining security.
I am the mother of 2 teenage children, so I have to stay in with the current times of technology as much as I possibly can right now. So all social media needs to be something that is, well, I guess everybody is on social media right now, from the young to the old. And social media is going to be the way to keep everyone aware as to what's going on in that office. Like I said, being the mother of 2 teenagers, I've had to download all kinds of TikTok and Facebook and everything else in between just to try and to see what my kids are doing. So hopefully, once I get better at doing all of that, I can help all the residents of Ingham County become aware of what the office does.
The Economic Development Department has been hard at work, and Frank Walsh is standing by with the director, Ken Lane, for an interview. Frank?
Thank you. One of the most important things we do, Ava, is economic development in the township. And I also want the viewers to know that we are maintaining social distance tonight. We are fully respectful of the mask, but we are 8 feet apart, so we are not wearing masks during our interviews. Ken Lane came to us just a few months ago as our economic development director, a former attorney at Clark Hill, and also a former economic development director, assistant manager for Delta Township. Ken's a resident, and we're very happy to have him on board. Very quickly, Ken, can you share with us the latest with the Village of Okemos?
Sure, absolutely, Frank. Thanks for having me tonight.
You bet.
Township staff has been in communication with the development team for the Village of Okemos for the past several months. COVID-19 has deviated the project plan somewhat significantly. They're having a difficult time maintaining their financing. Commercial lending is on hold, so they're getting creative and they're looking for additional funding sources. But we've been working with them, and the plan is if they can secure some funding, and they're going to be making a request to tap into the Meridian Redevelopment Fund for some additional funding.
Sure.
The plan is to demolish all the buildings in that area, which would be west of Okemos Road on both sides of Hamilton, on or before December 15th.
Great. What about the exciting plans that are happening, planned to happen in the Hazlitt Village Square? I think those plans are moving along much quicker.
They absolutely are. In the Pine Village development, they just had their site plan review today, and that went really, really well. So we expect that to be approved and the progress to continue. They are going to be submitting a brownfield plan as well. That'll be before the Brownfield Authority on August 20th. And they're moving forward. Their financing is secure, and they've submitted their plans, and they're anticipating to start construction this fall.
And to wrap it up in like a Chris Berman style, tell us real quickly the former Burger King, the former Pizza Hut, and the former Toys R Us. What's happening in those 3 spots?
Former Burger King is going to be demolished, and Buddy's Pizzeria out of the Detroit area is going to be building a new location there. And they have already received their site plan review, so we're hoping they get started fairly soon. Former Pizza Hut, Anna's House, which is a restaurant with several locations all throughout the state. They specialize in breakfast. They are underway redeveloping that property, and we're hoping they're open sometime in the fall or winter. And then the former Toys R Us, Klingman's Furniture out of Grand Rapids, they will be moving into that building. They have gotten their permit approvals. They're doing interior work, and they hope to open by October.
That's great, Ken. And we really appreciate all the energy that you're putting into what you're doing. And in Meridian Township, economic development's not just going out to greenfields and building new. It's a lot about taking what we have and making sure that we fill those vacancies and stay strong. So we appreciate your work, Ken. Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
The goal of this plan is to continue strengthening workplace diversity, to create scholarship programs for minorities in the police department, and adopt township resolutions supporting diversity, equity, and inclusion by declaring racism a public health crisis as one of their first initiatives. Here's more on that for you.
There's been a lot of discussion and a lot of thoughts put into this over the last several weeks, but over the past 4 years, I feel like the board's worked with Manager Walsh and our HR Director Marks and staff to strengthen these efforts on diversity in the workplace. And that's, that's obvious through adopting yet another year for a goal of increased diversity in the workplace. And that's fantastic. And we've also worked by implementing a scholarship program for minorities into our public service police department. We also just recently passed a resolution to join in county in declaring racism as a public health crisis. So I feel like in everything that's happening in the world today, and that's been happening for hundreds of years, there's a time that's that right now we have this opportunity to make a really big difference in our community. I feel like we've got a really diverse population, considering we have, almost 6 to 8% Asian population. We've got 4% African American population, and then other is up there as well. And so I feel like we're doing well on the population diversity. Diversity is not enough. I feel like we need to we want to build enrich our current diversity, but we also have to enhance the equity and inclusion. Just because we have a diverse population doesn't mean that we're equitable, nor are we inclusive.
We have the privilege this evening to welcome the township's new HR director, Abby Tiedoff, who is just across the way with Frank Walsh. Abby has served both in the Michigan Supreme Court and Michigan Court of Appeals in Human Resources. Frank, what types of questions do you have from our Meridian's newest addition, Abby?
Well, here is another one of our stars, but really she hasn't joined our team yet, but she's very close. Joyce Marks is retiring as our Human Resource Director after 6 years. She's done a tremendous job for us. We've just recently completed a search for a new HR Director for our township, 165 employees. And we're thankful we found the gem right here in Meridian Township, a resident, Abby Tiedoff. And Abby, welcome, and we're glad. I think you're joining us August 10th.
That's
your
correct,
first day.
Thank you.
I'm glad you're here, and maybe tell us a little bit about your experience. I know you have like 30 years with the Supreme Court of Appeal. Tell us a little bit about what you've done and what you plan, your excitement to come here, because I know you're excited.
You know I'm excited. Absolutely. I can't wait to arrive. I'm already doing the pre-work. I can't wait to get caught up and hop right in. I've been working for the judicial branch for 29 years, and 20 of those years have been in human resources. So I served the Supreme Court, Court of Appeals, State Court Administrative Office, and time flies. It really does. So I was very excited because I had all these terrific opportunities to learn all the many facets of HR and all things personnel. Get to know a lot of terrific people, got a lot of great skills, and I was elated to be able to put those into practice when I joined you.
Yeah, well, thank you. I know we had quite a comprehensive interview schedule here. We had the first round of interviews where we had 7 candidates, and then we came back for a second round, and we involved 11 different departments in that process. So you being here really says a lot about you, because it was a rigorous process. What would be like the number one thing when you come here? What's the number one thing you look forward to doing as our new HR director?
Well, my very first thing is I want to know everyone. I want to spend a lot of time getting to know the different areas, different offices, departments, know the people, because I want to know what everybody needs, because I am here to serve them.
Great, thank you. We're going to go right into results, because if you can just hang on, Abby, we just got some results in here that we want to share with all of the viewers here. First of all, we'll go to the trustee race, and these were just handed to me, so bear with me. But in the trustee race, the 7 candidates at this point, with 5 of the precincts of the 19 reporting, Patricia Jackson has 249 votes. Courtney Wazinski is second with 245. Kathy Sunland, 227, and Dan Opsimer, 174. So the 4 incumbents so far are doing extremely well. And following that would be the 3 challengers at 87, 86, and 85. So again, the 4 incumbents appear to be off to a great start. but there is a lot of votes to come in yet tonight. Switching over to the clerk's race, again, 5 of the 19 precincts reporting. Deborah Guthrie, the challenger, is off to a significant lead with almost 77% of the vote, 290 to 89. Again, this is 5 of 19 precincts reporting, and we want to caution you, this is only voters who showed up at the polls today. It does not include the 11,000 people who voted absentee. So by no means is anyone have a significant lead when there's thousands of votes to count. But so far, the 4 incumbent trustees are off to a great start. And the same with challenger Deborah Guthrie looking to unseat clerk Brett Dreyfus with 77% of the vote.
We are now able to hear from Meridian Township Supervisors Ron Styka on his perspective of diversity in the workforce and what that means to him.
For us in terms of diversity in the community, and then within our staff, you know, we recruit. We try to find people that match our citizenry. You know, you got to have people from all walks of life, all minorities, all religions represented in the police force, in the fire department. And one of the things we've done in the last several years at least is we've now undertaken a program where we will actually assist a person. For example, we did one who's Hispanic not too long ago, go through the police academy. We will help, we'll give them funds and pay their tuition so that they will then come into our force to add to our diversity. And that's working very well. We're doing that again this year with a young lady from the DeWitt area who's now going through that process. And it's been extremely successful, and we're looking at expanding into the fire realm as well. We haven't done it yet, but we're looking at that.
And Treasurer Phil DeShane also weighs in on the steps that should be taken to improve diversity in the workforce. Let's take a look.
Done some things. Diversity has been part of our goal. We have worked to make sure that every time we look to hire a new employee, we look at a diverse pool of candidates. Diversity in housing options is very important. This board voted 6-1 to make sure we gave a payment in lieu of taxes, essentially a tax break to the Woodward Way project behind Whole Foods. That's going to provide more diverse housing for moderate to low income individuals. We don't have a lot of housing for moderate to low income individuals. This is people that are living between the poverty level and the median income. So we approve that tax break for Woodward Way. It'll provide 50 units of safe, secure housing for people that are working at Whole Foods or working at Myers or working in the service sector and can't afford a mortgage at this time in their lives. So more housing options is important. We need to do more in our hiring options as well. Diversity has been a goal of this board. We've now expanded it from not just to be diverse, but also to be equitable and inclusive. So it's our new acronym we'll be using moving forward. It's an important one, is DEI. We need to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion. Lots of ways we can do that. We have much to learn in this area, and we'll continue to learn. We've made improvements with our police department. We've gone from approximately 1 or 2 minority officers to now 5, and we can do more of that. We would like to do that as well in the fire department. It is not easy attracting top police and fire talent, and we need to keep doing that. We also need to make sure we're looking for diversity as well when we're looking to hire new police and fire personnel. So we've got a ways to go there, but it can be done, and we'll continue to make it a priority of this board.
And with that, we now have trustee candidate responses about their predictions for the business climate and how this will affect Meridian Township as a whole. Take a look.
Clearly, many businesses are struggling in Meridian Township. We need to do all we can to provide support for our local businesses. We also have a very visible problem with the delay of the Okemos-Hamilton Road downtown development. This must be addressed, and the empty buildings must be demolished and cleared away. Residents and visitors are concerned about the lack of progress and wondering why this has not moved forward. In addition, we encourage future developments. As we encourage future developments, we must make it clear that they will be required to pay greater attention to the environmental impact of their proposed development. The township must also provide more opportunity for the input of the residents.
Well, apparently the business climate is very uncertain. And in the rest of the country and the world, we don't know for sure what our revenue resources are going to be like. We don't know for sure how we can sustain where we are, how we maintain the quality of life that we have now. And so we will have to kind of make it up as we go along with the knowledge and understanding of the uncertainty in our revenue sources and our abilities to make the kinds of expenditures that we've already planned for. Currently, there are several projects planned for and in the pipeline to come into actualization in Meridian Township, whose funding is not clear. There are other projects that we have where we have planned in a way that we ensure the funding, for example.
And standing by with Frank Walsh is Community Planning Director Mark Kieselbach, talking about the developmental updates in the township. Frank, what do you have?
Thank you, Ava. As you know, every team needs a quarterback. And this gentleman here on my left, Mark Kieselbach, joined the township, I think, on January 21st, 1980. So he celebrated here his 40th year. He's the Director of Community Planning and Development, does a whole host of things for the township over the last 40 years, and his institutional knowledge is just unmeasured. But Mark, I'd like to know tonight, as you look back at your 40 years with the township, you've seen a lot of things come and go, supervisors, managers, and all that. If you look back at your 40 years, what stands out to you as your most significant project, the most fun you had on a project? What stands out to you?
I don't know if it's one single project. I think for me, it's the quality of development. Over the years, we've been criticized as a township for being tough with our standards. And I look back at, even though the boards, we had pro-growth, no-growth, mixed type of boards and planning commission, one thing that has stand out is that the demand for quality and good development, one that's sustainable, and we see that throughout the community.
Yeah, right. And if you know, one of the things that, to your point, Mark, if you drive down Grand River and you notice the signage along Grand River, look at the sign for the new Panera Bread and so on. We really don't have a lot of sign pollution in Meridian Township, and I think that goes to your point. Yeah. If you drive down other commercial corridors, maybe in Ingham County, you'll see a lot more about the larger signs and more signs, and that's one of the attributes of our department. Yeah. So, is there anything else besides that work? Is there a project that what's the most challenging prize, or one that stands out, the most challenging project that you've had? I know the fire station was challenging for us.
Yeah, the fire station was a challenge. Yeah. Years ago was one of the things that we had said was, if you remember the Source Club, now Home Depot, that was a real struggle. That was a Myers product. They wanted to compete with Sam's, and they built that Source Club, and we said, is really that a good spot? Do you want to go to that site? And they did, and it wasn't open more than a year, and then we struggled to get it filled. And I know Home Depot originally was going to build where Walmart was.
Oh, okay.
And then we convinced them that this was a better place, and then Walmart came in, and again, that was a tough struggle on that one. That we wound up in court on that. But I think overall it turned out to be a good development, and they managed the site well.
Yeah, back to the point Ken Lane was just making about filling buildings that we have instead of starting anew, and that filling that with Home Depot is another example of that. As you can see, when I talked about institutional knowledge, there you have it. The quarterback of our team, the guy who's been with us for 40 years. We really appreciate your work, Mark Kieselbach, and thank you for being with us this evening.
I was able to interview Park Commissioner Michael McDonald about all the park developments this summer and in the near future. He touches on the 5-year master plan, which began in February of 2017. Here's that interview now.
We've been a part of that preparation, review, re-review, and annual searching through it as we come up with new projects. I think that what we've done and will continue to do long after I'm gone is going to be very much in concert with our recreation plan, which is a very flexible document. Even though it goes for 5 years, at any point in there, if we see some turn in the fork in the road with proper public participation and skillful staffing, we could address something such as maybe a twofold increase in cricket. That's just pulling one out of the air.
Okay, I like it. Michael shared with me that that Hartwick Park is his favorite, and I probably have to join him in that. It's my favorite place to go walking and just enjoy nature. Here's a brief overview of the rest of the 2020 park projects.
Leadership of Luann Meisner, Director, and Amanda Lick, our Chair. We're a policy-making body, and I think the most exciting thing I'm looking forward to is us executing the actual construction of some really huge and competitive grant projects, one of which will be behind us a ways, and that is the new walkways and bridges and so forth in Central Park. We also have an ongoing grant at Harris Nature Center that's under construction right today. And then it isn't fully under the Parks and Rec Department, but we're all super excited about the marketplace on the green, that if there is some side noise you hear, it might be because of those construction vehicles.
All for a good thing coming, right?
August 23, I've heard.
August 23 is coming up. All right, Frank. Now, I don't want you to get too lonely over there, so we're going to send it over to you to discuss with Senior Project Engineer Niall Nunn a summary of all the construction we see in Meridian Township. Frank?
Now, this is a guy that you're going to want to hear from tonight. He's just really one of our champs in our entire organization. Niall Nunn. Welcome, Niall. You know, it's one of the best things about Meridian Township is some of the homegrown talent that we have. Niall's a graduate, born and raised in Hazlet, graduated from Hazlet High School. That's correct. And I believe it or not, I think coming up in September, you have your 10-year anniversary with the township.
I do.
10 years, that's hard to believe. Yeah, well, and also if you enjoy, he's not going to tell you this tonight, but I will, because I'm really proud of him and what he's done. If you enjoy the new boardwalk on Okemos Road, that just was opened maybe a year ago, and that goes north of Central Park Drive, north towards Hazlet. This is one of the 3 guys that designed that entire project for us. But tonight we're here to talk about the Lake Lansing project MSU. So maybe you could update us, Niall, on where that project's at.
Sure. So for those who know, or rather those who don't, it's broken into 3 phases and will extend from MSU's campus at Hagedorn Road all the way up to Lake Lansing. And the first phase is going to be the largest, and it involves work with MDOT and with federal funding, and we are working through the process there to secure that funding. And one of the major pieces is securing easements or private property rights. And so we have a private consultant that is doing that work for us, and it's taking a little longer than we expected because it's a huge amount of work. But they're making progress, and we're proceeding with the design. And we anticipate that next year we'll be able to begin construction.
Great. And so really when Niall's work is done and his team, we're going to have a pathway that you can leave Lake Lansing and go on a pathway and get all the way to the MSU campus. That's the plan.
Correct.
Yeah. And just tremendous work that you do. Niall, while you're here, we'll really quickly, as you look at your time, your 10 years in Meridian Township, how do you summarize that briefly and your experience in Meridian Township? happy, fulfilled, right?
Absolutely, and I would say enlightening. It just every year is a new set of challenges, and I'm learning something new, and I feel like we're bringing more and more back to the community.
When you walk across the Okemos Bridge, think of this guy. He's homegrown, and he does a great job for us. We're very happy to have Niall Nunn, and congratulations later this year on your 10-year anniversary.
Thank you, Frank.
Niall.
I appreciate it.
And now on to some results. We have results on a couple of millage proposals. The elder person's millage, we have approximately 57 of 115 precincts in, and the elder person's millage is winning at 71%, 84.93 to 34.32. Moving on to the Ingham 911 proposal, a renewal, 57 of 115 precincts in, and it's winning easily 76 to 24, 9,101 yes votes. So again, both proposals, the elder persons and the 911 millage, are doing extremely well early on in Ingham County.
Thank you for the results, Frank. And to give our viewers some time to rally up their predictions for the candidates, we're going to take a short break. Stay with us on Home TV.
Every 10 years, the U.S. Census Bureau conducts a mandatory census for everyone living in the United States. This includes anyone living in Meridian Township on April 1st, 2020. College students and international members of the community are included, regardless of citizenship status. Children, including toddlers and newborns, count as well. This affects how much federal funding is put into our community, such as education and infrastructure. For more information and how to fill the census form, visit meridian.mi.us/census2020. United States Census 2020. Shape your community. Be counted.
The Meridian Township Farmers Market is opening Saturday, May 16th, and though precautions are being implemented to ensure a safe shopping experience, it is important that visitors follow these guidelines. Please do not attend if you are not feeling well. Keep market visits simple and short. Have no more than 1 or 2 people in a shopping group. All customers must wear a mask. All customers must follow CDC hygiene guidelines. Maintain a distance of at least 6 feet from others. Only 1 customer will be allowed per vendor at one time. Customers may not bring their own shopping bag. Try to avoid the need for making change by bringing small bills or use a credit card if possible. Consider pre-ordering from vendors for curbside pickup. No food can be consumed while at the market. State and federal food assistance processing is available. Please be courteous and patient. No pets are permitted at the market. And bring a cart, stroller, or other equipment to carry purchases and make a single trip through the market. Follow these guidelines to ensure a safe shopping experience for all. More information can be found at meridian.mi.us/farmersmarket.
Great news! Meridian Township offices are reopened to the public. Operating hours are reduced to Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Members of the public are required to wear a mask and perform social distancing. Upon entering the Township Municipal Building, a guest must stop by the security desk. Meridian Township created 2 portable outdoor services in front of the entrance. One administers building permits and utility permits. The other assists in payments and fees. The Town Hall provides in-person voting, absentee ballot applications, voter registration, voted ballots, and other election information. Meridian Township provides 2 white mailboxes that are available 24/7. One is for drop-off payments and paper correspondence. The other is for absentee ballot applications and voted absentee ballots. For more information on the Township Reopening Plan, visit meridian.mi.us/Township Reopening Plan.
We are back, and our Home TV's Connie Rabbani is live at Treasurer Phil DeShane's house to interview Democratic incumbent candidate Patricia Herring-Jackson. Connie?
after a while, after I retired from my job, I was looking for more first, and it's been a very rewarding. I believe that in my first term, we passed a lot of positive things down for the citizens in the township, and I wanted to continue to do that.
And how has COVID affected your campaign?
COVID affects everything. So you spend too much time in the house. All your meetings are in your house. You know, they start in your house. But in terms of campaigning, you don't get to get out in the streets and on the floors and meet lots of people talking to as many groups. And so it's been very different, but rewarding still.
What do you hope to accomplish if you get elected, and how do you plan to accomplish it?
Well, in our first term, we started a lot of, several kind of big projects to address long-standing problems in the county. Largely our streets and unfunded liabilities, pension liabilities, and found a way to convince our voters that we do this, the planning, the plan, and so we get started. And one of the things I hope to see is the continuation, have those things come to fruition, that we try to maintain the township by naturally stable condition, and that maybe brings some even newer ideas or activities to it. So I'm particularly interested in things like addressing issues of diversity and equity and inclusion in the township, particularly finding ways to provide broadband access. And so I look forward with some excitement to possibility.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
I'm glad when COVID is over and we can get back to the normal.
Well, I want to thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Thank you.
All right, and in openness, I'm Connie Rabani. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Connie, and thank you to our viewers for bearing with us during those Zoom technical difficulties. We're in a new era with the Zoom interviews. All right, and as the night is rolling on, so are those numbers being counted for the votes. We're going to head over to Frank Walsh for an update on the numbers. Frank?
Yes, we do have an update on some numbers from the county clerk race. Again, that's between two-term incumbent Barb Byram and challenger Dekia Quinny Davis. And the numbers right now show incumbent Barb Byram with 4,505 votes, 4,505 to Dekia Quinny Davis, 2,472. Again, 4,505 to 2,472. Incumbent clerk Barb Byram is out to an early lead in the race for Ingham County Clerk.
So now we know the issue.
All right, and we will be heading to see the Emily Town story on the back to school story with COVID and how that affects parents and students this fall.
With about a month left until school starts, Hazlitt and Okemos schools are working towards setting up the school year while finding out a way to protect its students from the coronavirus.
We're in phase 4, so the governor in her reopen plan has laid out guidelines in 3 categories. 1 that's required, 2 that's highly recommended, and 3 that's recommended.
And our board is taking a very conservative approach. If we're going to have kids back in buildings in the fall, it's going to be with masks, and it's going to be with 6-foot social distancing.
The Okemos Board of Education decided to move classes online 100% until at least October 30th. From there, they will assess what direction they want to go in for the rest of the school year.
We've got staff that are working on improving the areas that needed improvement so that we can deliver a more robust online learning in the fall.
Hazlitt has tabled the decision on reopening until a special board meeting, which will be held on August 3rd. There, a decision is expected to be made.
There's a lot of questions I believe that the board members want to have answered before they make a decision. So we're going to present those options and what those look like to our board. They're going to ask questions, and then hopefully they'll make a decision.
From Meridian Township, I'm Emily Towns, HOMTV.
And just last night, the Hazlitt Board of Education came to that decision to move instruction online for the first part of the year. The district will decide what to do for the rest of the semester before October 12th. On to the opioid epidemic that has been sweeping the nation of all ages. Reporter Gabby Malta tells us more of the opioid crisis in Michigan.
Of course, we do think that COVID-19 has very unfortunately played a role in the increase in overdoses that we've seen over the last few months. We can only hypothesize at this point, but there are a few different ways that COVID-19 and the opioid crisis may intersect. One is that if individuals were staying home, staying safe under the COVID stay home order, potentially they might have been using substances alone, which is a very large risk factor to having a fatal overdose. We also saw folks who were stable in recovery, who couldn't go to in-person recovery support meetings and really participate in the recovery community that's so important to that lifestyle. So we think there are a few different ways that this might have occurred. A lot of the recovery community has moved online, telephonic. We've had a lot of treatment services move to telemedicine as well, and have got really positive feedback from stakeholders that folks did have continued access during the COVID crisis. But I can't underscore enough how important community really is to recovery. It's very much a peer support kind of process. So we think that that might have been a disruption still, unfortunately. So the department has been trying to highlight a lot of those resources so that people can stay safe, even if they do plan to use substances. A few that I would highlight are always carrying naloxone. It's very important. It's a medication that can reverse opioid overdoses, so it's a huge safety precaution. Another is never using alone, if that's at all possible. There are services where you can call in.
Just last week was National Intern Appreciation Day, and as a reporting intern here at HOMTV, I certainly am very grateful for HOMTV keeping their internship alive and well, even though part of it was virtual. I will say, being away from the studio, they still made it feel like home. Here's Juan Bonetti, marketing and social media interns video on that right now.
Follow the action. This is where all the magic happens.
This summer semester of HOMTV interns have been phenomenal. So far, they are blowing me away every single day, and I'm so thankful and appreciative of everything that they're doing.
Welcome to HOMTV.
I'm Everette, and you're listening to HOMTV.
I'm Gabby Malta from HOMTV, and I'm a reporter for the 2020 internship program.
My name is Emily Towns, and I'm an intern at HOMTV.
And what are you working on today?
Right now, I'm currently working on a boson for an upcoming live production.
Camera work, and I know a lot of us are doing promos. I've been working on a TV package.
We are hosting a candidate interview for the 2020 elections.
So we first started off doing a lot of articles, so that's such like phone interviews, Zoom interviews, and they have us out in the field, which is really cool. I'm editing a package right now, so yeah, exciting stuff.
Every new intern, every new semester brings a whole new element to why I love this place. It's just awesome that we were a part of their very beginning.
HOMTV was fun. Honestly, everyone here is just super open-minded.
I was so nervous. I was like, who are these people? I don't know them. But I mean, I was just greeted with a smile, and that just goes to my first interview with Brandy. When we first started talking, just met me with a smile and was so open to listening to me and wanting to see what I wanted from the internship instead of, you know, my duties that she was going to tell me.
Providing experience and hands-on training for those who want to be in the careers of multimedia, television, social media, communications, and film.
And in return, the residents of Meridian Township really get the news and information that they're looking for out of their local government and what's happening in the community. So the interns gain experience and get information for their resume and hopefully get their foot in the door at their job. And then the residents benefit from everything that our interns are doing with programs and stories and online content to keep them informed. Government transparency is one of our main goals of HOMTV, and the interns just add the extra element because we have a very small staff, so the interns are kind of the manpower of the operation of the channel. It was amazing that when our new interns got on board, we had an influx of stories, content they're writing and doing Zoom interviews from home. Staff couldn't keep up with the amount of content that the interns are producing, which is an awesome problem to have.
Honestly, I've learned a lot and I love it.
This is my second semester here at HOMTV, and throughout my 2 semesters, I've done all these stories for HOMTV. It's incredible.
And that is a wrap for our first Meridian News Show.
What is it? It's a wrap. That's a wrap. It's not a sandwich. It's a wrap.
Alrighty. Let's go. Oh yeah. Yeah.
What are we doing?
Well earned. Get some ice cream, and we're gonna show them love.
We had a good show, and now it's time to celebrate. Well, I need an exit shot, you know? Think like na 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 na. Yeah, right.
It certainly has been a memorable summer, and before I start to tear up from that video, we're going to toss it down to Frank Walsh for a poll update. Frank, what do you have for us?
You know, before we go to some more results, I want to first of all, as Township Manager, thank all of our interns. We have a great intern program here. It's been tested severely in the last few months through COVID, but we have an amazing team, and I'm really proud of them, and I thank them for their volunteerism. About 20 hours each they put into this, and they were lucky to get a sandwich from Grand Traverse. So thank you very much for being here. Here's the results of where we have so far, with 2 more precincts in the trustee race tonight. Again, 4 seats open. Right now, the current leader, and again, these are votes for people who voted at the polls today. The absentee ballots look like they're going to be maybe even a few more hours before we get results. Courtney Wazinski is at 321. Pat Jackson, incumbent, 317. Incumbent Kathy Sunland, 254. And incumbent Dan Opsimer at 246. And all 4 incumbents are doing very well. And the 3 challengers, we have James Salahy at 119, and John Esser at 114, and Mike Kalvashewski at 112. Again, the 4 incumbents off to a huge lead, and they seek to be reelected. In the clerk's race, we have 2-term clerk incumbent Brett Dreyfus against challenger Deborah Guthrie. Right now, the vote total is in. Deborah Guthrie at 382 votes. Brett Dreyfus 115. So far, 77% of the votes have gone to the challenger Deborah Guthrie. Again, there's thousands of votes to be counted. We have approximately 11,000 absentee ballots that are still being counted as we speak. So a long way to go. Switching over from results and thanking our interns, I want to introduce you to Stephen Giebus. We've talked a lot tonight about local talent, and here's another local talent. Hazlitt grad, went to the University of Michigan for aerospace engineering. He has 29 years with the township. He's our IT director and has a lot of responsibility, and he's a guy who just puts in a lot of time, and we're really thankful to have you. So, Stephen, maybe you could talk about just the challenges you have with the system we have in place with our IT. What is it you do on a daily basis?
Oh, you're
you're running a rough road. You never want to ask a computer guy to talk about computers. Why don't I just stick to the technology that we've used for elections over the years and the fantastic system that the clerk, Ingham County Clerk, has implemented across Ingham County for us right now. The results at this point are collected and automatically transmitted from a laptop over in our clerk's area right there directly to their servers and are available online almost as quickly as we can get them here ourselves. It's a fantastic system. 25 years ago when we were starting this, we were using optical readers that had old computer punch cards that ran through 1,000 cards a minute, but we were here for hours every night running those, and then all of that had to be run down to the county's offices after we were done doing the county at midnight, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. The advances we've made in technology and that the clerk's office at Ingham County has made for us over all these years has just been fantastic to be a part of. And we try to keep up with everything that the clerk provides here. We, of course, are running all the standard computer stuff that no one really cares about, but we'll keep doing our best to make sure that the election runs smoothly and do all the support that we can for their offices down there.
Thank you very much, Stephen. And again, local talent, Hazlitt grad, longevity with the township, 29 years, and doesn't even have to be here tonight, but he's here helping us out, and we really appreciate it. Stephen Giebus, our IT director, just another one of the stars on the Meridian team. Thank you, Stephen.
You're very kind. Thank you.
We will now be taking your living room into Phil DeShane's living room as Gabby Malta will be interviewing Meridian Township Clerk candidate Deborah Guthey. Gabby?
Thanks, Ava. I'm here in Oakness with Deborah Guthey, running for Meridian Township Clerk. Deborah, how are you doing tonight? I'm doing great, thank you. Yes, okay, so now Deborah, you were a communications director for 20 years. So why run for Township Clerk?
So one of the reasons I ran for Meridian Township Clerk is because I wanted to bring integrity back to the position of clerk in the clerk's office that Virginia White and Mary Helmbert had. That was first and foremost the reason why I ran for Meridian Township Clerk. And I also wanted to administer elections according to state law. There has been several issues in the clerk's office administering elections, and so I wanted to run for office to administer them.
Great, and what are your top priorities if you get elected?
Okay, so the first thing that I want to do, if elected, is to work with the Secretary of State's office to audit the office of the clerk, to audit the election protocols, make those findings public, and then to work with township staff to organize and streamline the election voting process, increase voter participation and engagement.
Great, and now the polls are closed. How are you feeling about that?
Well, I feel very confident. I don't know if I should say that, but I do feel confident. I have had a gigantic amount of support, not only from my family, but from residents that I called over 10,000 residents in the community. There's almost 44,000 residents. I called over 10,000 people, sent hundreds, maybe thousands of letters to neighborhoods in Meridian Township. I've had a tremendous amount of support from people on my campaign committee and volunteers and my family, putting up yard signs and shout outs, sharing. So I feel very confident just because of the people that we've done in Meridian Township. We have a community that is filled with brilliant people, creative people, tremendous people, and I know that together our community can come up with solutions to solve any problems that may come Meridian Township's way. And so I am just excited and ecstatic to be part of the Meridian Township Board and to be part of that team to solve any problems that we have and to work with the community together.
And why do you think you're best fit?
Because I love the people. You know, I have been endorsed by several unions. My father was a union representative for GM, and I was elected by my peers at Meridian Township to represent staff members at Meridian Township. So I have the unique position of someone who is a former staff member who will now be on the township board, who understands the needs of the staff members and and I'm, I've been a resident for over 40 years, so I understand the needs of the residents. And so I am just super excited to be part of the Meridian Township team and to work with the residents to solve whatever problems that come our way.
And how has COVID-19 and just the global pandemic affected your campaign?
Oh my gosh. So I've never run for office before. And so I have heard from several people that, not being able to go to doors is a huge hindrance and that kind of thing. And I'm a huge people person, and so I love being around people. So I do miss the fact that I was able to go to door. But I called, like I said, I called people. There were some residents who had some issues that they needed resolved, and I immediately contacted Meridian Township, and we were able to resolve some of those issues. And that's just kind of the person that I am. Maybe it's because I've lived here for so long that you hear something that's wrong, you say something, and you do something about it.
That's great. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I just want to thank everyone for their support and thank everyone for standing behind me and thank this entire community because we really do live in a crime community.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
For me tonight. Well, I'm Gabby Malta in Okemos. I'm HOMTV, and back to you, Ava.
Thank you so much, Gabby. Let me continue that fight, says Elisa Slotkin, encouraging her voters that change will continue during her campaign kickoff just a few weeks ago. HOMTV's Cortland Jenkins covered this event. Watch the rest here.
Okay. You're going to say. Oh, yeah, she's on TV.
Issues around addiction, issues around our economy, and what's going to happen as we deal with the response and the fallout from COVID-19.
I totally love her.
It is my job to
Yeah, she came back for elections. She's been awesome.
Oh my God, thank God.
My value proposition to you is that let me continue that fight on the price of healthcare, on the price of prescription drugs, on clean water, both our waters, our lakes, and our water, our drinking water. And let me try and be a part of a new generation of elected leaders who think differently and work harder and never forget who they are fighting for. My responsibility.
All right. There are Republican candidates challenging Elisa Slotkin for the seat. One of the Republican candidates will face off Elisa, and we asked them, the candidate who participated, about diversity. Take a look here.
That's a great question. And as a criminal defense attorney, I have actually observed a lot of racism, not a lot of racism, but racism in different cases that I've had. And I defended those individuals to the best of my ability and made sure that they were taken care of. But I also want to state this, right now we have an issue going on. Everybody can agree with me that what happened to Mr. Floyd was absolutely horrific. But the thing of it is that we need to make sure that we understand that there's only a few bad apples as police officers. And I support the police. I've always supported the police. And we need to make sure that we do continue on having law and order. And that is the premise that I want to make sure that we get across. But the other thing is that we need to, in order to have, to protect the individuals in the future, we need to have bills that actually include having body cameras on the police officers so it can have transparency for the police officers and the individuals that they're talking to. That's going to protect the police officers. It's also going to protect the individuals, the public, and they need to have them on at all time periods. The second thing is that we need to get the community involved. The community, which is the churches, which includes the churches. And if we recall, Martin Luther King was a great icon for us and a great example. And we need to remember that a lot of the churches in the past have actually been a good mediator for racism, diversity, and they will help us by getting to the police officers and making sure that we talk to them and find out what kind of diversity training do they have, what kind of education do they have, what happens next. The other thing is that there was a bill that was just recently introduced, and did not get to be voted on, and that was a bill that actually had police reform, and I was totally in support of that bill. And what it did is it tracked the bad apples of the police department, and it would have been very good to have that, and it entailed that we wouldn't have any chokeholds or anything of that nature. So it was a very good bill, and we should have been able to go ahead and vote on it, but unfortunately we were not able to do that. So I do support the police, but we need to make sure that that incident never happens again.
3, 2, 1.
And as the healthcare system is always trying to improve, they are trying to be better for its patients as well. Here's what candidates for the 8th District have to say about some of the pros and cons they see and want to improve.
Thank you. You know, I've been hearing a lot of things on our campaign trail about the prices of the pharmaceutical drugs. One person has MS and he's paying $1,029 a month just for that pharmaceutical drug that's keeping him alive and helping him with his MS. We need to reduce those prices. And I'm going to go back to the China issue right here, because China, we're not going to have them manufacture these drugs, these life-saving drugs. We're going to bring back the jobs right here to Michigan. We're going to make sure that life-saving drugs are made here in Michigan. We're going to bring back jobs here so we can have jobs, jobs, jobs right here in the 8th District. And we're also going to make sure that we have pre-existing conditions met for the healthcare system, but we need to make sure that the healthcare system is affordable.
All right, we are going to take a short break here, but we will be back hopefully with an updated on results from Frank.
Every 10 years, the U.S. Census Bureau conducts a mandatory census for everyone living in the United States. This includes anyone living in Meridian Township on April 1st, 2020. College students and international members of the community are included, regardless of citizenship status. Children, including toddlers and newborns, count as well. This affects how much federal funding is put into our community, such as education and infrastructure. For more information and how to fill the census form, visit meridian.mi.us/census2020. United States Census 2020. Shape your community. Be counted.
The Meridian Township Farmers Market is opening Saturday, May 16th, and though precautions are being implemented to ensure a safe shopping experience, it is important that visitors follow these guidelines. Please do not attend if you are not feeling well, keep market visits simple and short, have no more than 1 or 2 people in a shopping group, all customers must wear a mask, all customers must follow CDC hygiene guidelines, maintain a distance of at least 6 feet from others, only 1 customer will be allowed per vendor at one time. Customers may not bring their own shopping bag. Try to avoid the need for making change by bringing small bills or use a credit card if possible. Consider pre-ordering from vendors for curbside pickup. No food can be consumed while at the market. State and federal food assistance processing is available. Please be courteous and patient. No pets are permitted at the market. And bring a cart, stroller, or other equipment to carry purchases and make a single trip through the market. Follow these guidelines to ensure a safe shopping experience for all. More information can be found at meridian.mi.us/farmersmarket.
Great news! Meridian Township offices are reopened to the public. Operating hours are reduced to Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Members of the public are required to wear a mask and perform social distancing. Upon entering the Township Municipal Building, a guest must stop by the security desk. Meridian Township created 2 portable outdoor services in front of the entrance. One administers building permits and utility permits. The other assists in payments and fees. The Town Hall provides in-person voting, absentee ballot applications, voter registration, voted ballots, and other election information. Meridian Township provides 2 white mailboxes that are available 24/7. One is for drop-off payments and paper correspondence. The other is for absentee ballot applications and voted absentee ballots. For more information on the Township reopening plan, Visit meridian.mi.us/township reopening plan.
Thank you for staying with us on Home TV. We'll now toss it over to Frank Walsh for an updated voter count. Frank?
Thank you, Ava. We do have some more results for you here locally. Again, we have 19 precincts in Meridian Township, and we have the results now for 10 of the 19. Again, please keep in mind these are the results for the people who went into the polls and voted today. They do not take into account the absentee ballots. We are told the absentee ballots could be 2 to 3 hours away and way beyond our production time this evening. Where we are with 10 precincts in the trustee race. Again, 4 seats open, 4 incumbents running, and the 4 incumbents are doing extremely well. Courtney Wazinski leads the pack with 466, Patricia Herring Jackson 428, Kathy Sunland 410, and Dan Opsimer at 356. Followed by John Esser at 176, Mike Koszewski at 159, and James Salahy at 148. Moving over to the clerk's race, again, we have 2 candidates for the Democratic post for Meridian Township Clerk. 2-time incumbent Brett Dreyfus versus our challenger Deborah Guthrie. And with 10 of the precincts in for live voting today, Ms. Guthrie has garnered 524 votes to Brett Dreyfus 158. So 77% of the votes so far for candidate Ms. Guthrie. Those are your results so far with 10 of the precincts in. Stay tuned.
The Township Board could potentially be welcoming in some new faces. We asked Supervisor Ron Styka how he plans to implement the same values and continue the charge for all-around improvement within the department. Watch here.
Promote the internship program.
All right, we'll move on to promoting our internship program. Me being a first year this summer, it has been an amazing experience. I found them on LinkedIn, but you can also find a link on Home TV's website where you can find all of the different tracks that you can fall into as far as reporting, directing, and many things like that.
My job as the leader of the meetings to keep peace among the members. People sometimes, they get really excited about issues that they care about, and we want to keep the conversations going. People listening to each other and thinking, and we probably will result with pretty much the same board. Maybe 1 or 2 people might change, but my goal would be to continue to lead through example, to have communication open between the members. To have the issues thoroughly discussed and analyzed so we come to good decisions. And, that's the way you do it. You bring people together so that they're not sitting on opposite sides of the room kind of scowling at each other. You make them talk to each other. You make them work together.
As an incumbent candidate, we asked Treasurer Phil DeShane his steps to achieve success with new board members potentially being elected. Let's take a listen.
Good question. In February this year, we did the first ever board retreat, and actually that was an idea I brought to the board, and that helped with board relations. We still have some issues, particularly with one board member, but by and large, we have a strong 6-member majority that agrees, cooperates, treats each other very professionally. We can expand that to 7, but more of board training, board understanding of the complexity of these issues, and the continuation of the professionalism we've seen with the current board. I think one of the reasons we don't have as much opposition in terms of the election this year, partly is the COVID-19, but also we've changed the tenor of the board. We don't have board members standing up in the meetings and pounding the desk and saying, vote for so-and-so, vote out the current treasurer, vote out the current supervisor. That kind of shenanigans went on in past board meetings, and it doesn't reflect the values of our township. Our township is made up of 43,000 residents who are highly educated, professional, kind, and courteous. They don't need a Banana Republic kind of board activities. They want a board that reflects their values. I think this current board has done that. So we need to do more of the same. We also need to do more outreach. And we need to have more forums where we can hear from our residents on what the issues are and what they think of our approach and their ideas for new and innovative ways to approach the issues before us. We need also to stay in touch with our community leaders. And we have quarterly meetings now, township staff do with the neighborhood association board members. We can do a lot more of that. So we need to be out in the community more. We need to be finding our residents where they're at and letting them know we're here to serve them. So more of the same, what we've been doing. We've made some improvements the past 4 years, but we can do more.
Frank, I think it's time to update our viewers on some of what you're seeing. And with your past experience, what are your unofficial final predictions?
Yes, thank you. Clerk Byram's county results are coming in quick and furious. They have already reported 89 of their 115 precincts are in. And right now, the elder person's millage is passing at 72%, with 12,520 yes to 4,821 no. Again, the elder person's millage so far is passing easily with 89 of the 115 precincts in. Switching over to 911, it's doing even better. But with the 89 of the precincts in for the county 911 millage, 76% of the voters have said yes, 13,195 to 4,174. So both millages, with a lot of the precincts in at the county level, passing very easily this evening.
The new township board will take office this November to begin their next 4-year term. Here's that for you now. And as we begin to wrap up, I'd like to encourage you to keep informed by keeping an eye out for these local races. The U.S. Senator, 8th District Congress, 69th State Representative, Prosecuting Attorney, Ingham County Sheriff, Ingham County Sheriff Clerk, Ingham County Sheriff Treasurer, Ingham County Register of Deeds, Ingham County Drain Commissioner, Ingham County Commissioner 11th District, and lastly, Ingham County Commissioner 12th District. And moving on to the land preservation mileage renewal, which pertains to a new focus that emphasizes more on management and stewardship of acquired lands. And here's more for you on that.
Very detailed plans moving forward. Normally we'll sit down and do a 1 to 3 year plan on how we're going to, depending on, are we going to spend a lot of effort in one preserve? Are we looking to do a little bit in multiple preserves? And then we also look at where our volunteers are located. A lot of our volunteers in our programs work in preserves near their home or in their neighborhood. And so we do take a look at how much money we have and what are the things that need to be done, whether they're controlled burns, those are done. We try to do those every year in certain areas. But do we have a long-term plan on all 24 properties and how we're going to manage each year? We kind of work those on a 1 to 3 year schedule. We do have very detailed plans moving forward. And normally we'll sit down and do a 1 to 3 year plan on how we're going to, depending on, are we going to spend a lot of effort in one preserve? Are we looking to do a little bit in multiple preserves? And then we also look at where our volunteers are located. A lot of our volunteers in our programs work in preserves near their home or in their neighborhood. And so we do take a look at how much money we have and what are the things that need to be done, whether they're controlled burns, those are done. We try to do those every year in certain areas. But do we have a long-term plan on all 24 properties and how we're going to manage each year? We kind of work those on a 1 to 3 year schedule.
All right, we're going to interrupt that real quick. We have Home TV's Connie Rabbani live with Dan Opsmer. Connie?
I'm in Okemos here with Democratic candidate running for Township Trustee Dan Opsmer. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Great to be with you guys.
That's awesome. So what made you want to run for a second term?
Well, it's been an honor to serve the community the last 3.5 years, and we've accomplished a great deal. But we still have a lot of outstanding items in terms of implementing what we've accomplished thus far, like the 10-year road plan. We're in year 1 of that. And seeing our 10-year plan deploy from the pension system through, that'll conclude in 2027. And we have 3 projects in downtown Hazlet and downtown Okemos that I would say grew to.
And how has COVID affected your campaign?
It's dramatically changed the campaign. Traditionally, I would be out speaking to voters at the doorstep. I want to say in 2016, I knocked on 17 out of the 19 precincts in the community. This year, I chose not to knock any doors. Nobody has been knocking doors, thankfully. We do not need to be spreading COVID. But it's made the campaign much less, so you don't have that face-to-face contact, you can't interface with voters. So it's fundamentally changed how you.
And what are your top priorities if you were reelected, and how would you accomplish them?
So the top priorities are seeing through on our promises to the voters that we've already made. It's, robust and good oversight on the 10-year road plan, making sure the projects are done the right way the first time. Making sure that we make good on our promise to fully fund the pension system. And we have to see the projects that we have currently lined up in downtown Hazlet and downtown Okemos through. And we're going to have to find some additional projects there.
And why do you think you're a better fit than your competition?
It depends on how you define competition. So there's all 4 incumbents are currently running. And it's been a privilege to serve with Trustee Jackson, Trustee Wazinski, and Trustee Sunland, as well as Supervisor Steika and Treasurer DeShane. The competition, I haven't quite seen a vision or thought process on what they would like to see done differently. So I'm not sure what differentiates us, but for me, knowledge and experience is important in this role. There's a lot of nuance that goes into it. And, you really have to know the issues intimately in order to affect change, whether it's land use planning or whether it's budgetary and, dealing with a pension system or a road plan.
And is there anything else that you'd like to add?
I would just like to thank the voters. We are going to see record turnout tonight. So the previous high that we've had for a Democratic primary in August, it's been about 8,500 votes. Based on the numbers I've seen, we could hit upwards of 9,500 even. I think the floor tonight is 8,500. So I want to thank the voters for coming out and participating in record numbers. The pink wave is alive and well, and I think voters really had a reality check in 2016 when Trump was elected, and they're choosing not to take the right to vote ever again. So I think that's it.
All right. Well, Dan, I want to thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Absolutely. Great to be with you.
In Okemos, I'm Connie Rubani. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Connie. A record election indeed. Speaking of that, we're going to toss it down to Frank Walsh, who has Brett Dreyfus there to talk about absentee ballots. Frank?
So we're back where we started this evening with Clerk Brett Dreyfus to update us on the numbers. So far, we have 10 of 19 precincts in and 682 voters who went to the polls today. But we know there's approximately 11,000 voters who voted absentee. And any idea where we are with those numbers and when they might be coming out?
Yeah, so we have an absentee, for those citizens listening, we have an absentee voter counting board, and that's the group that processes all the absentee ballots. All the absentee ballots are only open on election day, so they start at 7 a.m. this morning and go continuously, and all the people are sequestered. So they have to stay in there all day, and so they've been in there since 7 a.m. this morning, and they have gone through, at this point, they've gone through 17 precincts have been tabulated. There's 2 to go. They also have to process all the AVs that came in this afternoon and the evening that was separate from the ones that came in up until this morning. And then they also have to duplicate ballots that come in from overseas and military ballots. We don't know the exact time. They also have to do the reports to close out the precincts. I would estimate, as a rough guess, sometime obviously after midnight, 1 o'clock possibly. And that's pretty good. That's pretty early, all things considered.
Okay, so there you have it. That's an update on where we are with the voters. We only have 682 votes counted at this point, nearly 3 hours after the polls have closed. We have thousands of votes yet to be counted. It sounds like we're within the next couple of hours. We'll have those, and we'll have some numbers for you. I would check out the Ingham County clerk's site for the updated numbers as we go into and past the midnight hour. So thank you very much, Clerk Dreyfus.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Frank. And back to the millages. The Township Board met July 22nd to go over the EMS Fire Department millage renewal. Here's a few highlights.
Expire, and it's rolled back to a 0.6339 over time through Headley. So we're generating less of a millage than we were back in 16 years ago. Not an amount, but the millage is less. So before you this evening is discussion about how you want to place this on the ballot. The recommendation is to place it on the ballot at its rolled back amount. And one thing that I'm sure you're all aware of, but just a gentle reminder to the board, that if you decided to go back to the original amount, it reads as an increase on the ballot because you're going back to the higher amount. So it's a 0.6339 for 16 years through 2035. And if approved, it would generate just under $1.2 million per year.
The Township Board will be meeting this Thursday, August 6th, via Zoom to discuss the Police Department millage renewal as an action plan. Here's what you need to know before the meeting.
Department is less than the fire department. Back in 2004, the voters approved a 16-year millage of 0.6117. And what we're recommending is that the same thing that theory with the fire department is that you present this millage to the public in 16 years at the current 0.6016. And that generates currently about $1.24 million, or about 60 or 70,000 less per year than the fire millage. For some reason, they're different, and that was probably a plan back in 2004. I'm not sure why, but the police millage generates over 10 years. It's going to generate about $600,000 to $800,000 less for the police department.
All right, Frank, this is the last time we're going to toss it to you. What's your final voting recap for this 2020 primary season? Frank?
Well, thank you, Ava. We're going to wrap things up here tonight. We think we've gone as far as we can in getting results. Again, just to recap, there are 19 precincts, and at this point, 3 hours past the polls closing, we have 10 of those 19 precincts in at this time. And those are the only information we have at this time are the people who actually voted at the precincts today at the polls, not the absentee ballots. There, as we've mentioned, there are approximately 11,000 absentee ballots. And as Clerk Dreyfus just noted, we may not have those for at least 2 or 3 hours. So just to recap where we're at before we close out the results portion of this tonight, I want to thank you for viewing tonight and letting me have this opportunity to do this. Where we are with the county clerk race, they have 100 of 115 precincts are in, and they have a total right now of incumbent Barb Byram with almost 7,000 votes. Takia Quinney Davis at 4161. So right now with 100 to 115 precincts, and again, that does not include absentee ballots. Moving over to the Meridian Township trustee race, 4 incumbents going to hold their seats, 7 candidates total, and again, the incumbents are out to a big early lead in that race. Courtney Wazinski at 466, Patricia Herring Jackson at 428, Kathy Sunland 410, and Dan Opsmer at 356. John Esser is at 176, and Mike Kalvashewski is at 159, and James Salahy is at 148. And finally, what we have in 10 of the 19 precincts for the clerk's race, again, only 682 votes out of approximately potentially 12,000 votes have been counted. So it's very early. 682 out of about 12,000. Challenger Deborah Guthrie has a significant lead over two-time incumbent clerk Brett Dreyfus, 524 to 158. Right now, Miss Guthrie is polling at 77%. So that's what we have for you this evening. And for future results, please turn to the Ingham County Clerk Byram site in Ingham County for the up-to-date results, which we hope to have totally completed in the next few hours. Thank you.
All right, we asked the Ingham County Clerk candidates how they think the election process will evolve over the next couple of years and why voting makes an impact on the community. Here's what they said.
So as a result of the passage of Proposal 3 in 2018, voters no longer need a reason to vote by absentee ballot. This is a wonderful change that was brought by grassroots voters ballot initiative. Therefore, however, we have been seeing an increase, a steady increase in voting by absentee ballot. I've been working with my colleagues, Democrats, Republicans, nonpartisan appointed clerks, to encourage the legislature to allow for early processing of AV ballots, absent voter ballots, as unofficial election night results are likely going to take longer into the evening, perhaps even the next day, as a result of the restrictive statutes and not enough ballot tabulators that are available. At some point in the near future, I expect there to be increased calls for the use of technology to try to take the process of applying for a ballot and perhaps even voting online. And this presents all sorts of new challenges and concerns in regards to cybersecurity concerns, fraud concerns, and more. I feel, quite frankly, that I am well suited to take on those concerns as a member of the Election Security Task Force and the Michigan Election Security Commission.
Oh, how it will evolve in the future. I believe we're going towards absentee. That's going to be the biggest one right now especially in the times that we're in with the pandemic that's going on. Absentee is going to be a big one for this upcoming election. Making sure that technology is in everybody's hand every single day, from a phone to a laptop to a computer to whatever that you're on. Technology is going to be the one. I am one that likes to go to the polls and cast my votes, but I see that going in a different direction as far as I think we're going to be able to someday cast a vote from our phone, which is going to be odd, but I think that that's where it's going to end up going. And I need to make sure to comply with all the ADA rules and to make sure that everybody feels inclusive in this office. So I think technology is going to be the way. And I'm hoping that, we can keep it to where we can go to the polls and cast our ballot. But I'm thinking that the phones are going to take it over for us. I hope not, and I hope they keep it that way, because that's the way to go, is to cast your vote. But I think this is where it's going to end up going.
Someone told me one time that our smartphones have the same type of power that most rocket ships do, so maybe she's onto something. On a more local level, we asked Meridian Township's clerks candidates the same thing. Here's what they had to say. Take a look.
Sure. I actually just wrote an article that was published in the Lansing City Pulse last month and was called The Evolution of Elections. So I kind of laughed when I hear this question about what, using the term evolution of elections. Why I wrote The Evolution of Elections is I believe elections are a process like any natural process that evolves. We grow and learn and adapt. And we do that often through threats and through problems, just like in nature it does as well. So nature, when a virus hits, a virus can mutate in order to stay active. And we see the coronavirus. We see it happening with all past types of viruses. They mutate, they adapt, they evolve so that they can survive and even try to thrive against their own adversities. So, we have a pandemic, and the pandemic definitely affected the election process. So the election process has an evolutionary moment that was thrust upon it. That is, the virus now created a scenario that we had to respond to something that in the past seemed not something you had to respond to. The response is that elections are dangerous when people congregate in line and they're in tight polling locations and they're handling pens and ballots and they're being next to one another, and there's election workers for 16 hours in a room filled with people, and these are elderly people, the most at risk, the most vulnerable to getting COVID. All of this created an election nightmare and a danger. People have to choose between their health and going to vote, and that should never have to be a choice. Fortunately, there is a solution. The solution's already in play. It's vote by mail. Already, Michigan voters were using vote by mail at about 20 to 40%, roughly, somewhere in that range. So I proposed, along with some leading experts in the country, the way to resolve the pandemic issue. You evolve elections to the next You create universal vote by mail. Universal vote by mail means that every voter in the state of Michigan, every voter in Meridian Township gets a ballot sent to them for every election as long as they're living at the same location. They never have to fill out an application. They never have to fill out any additional forms. And so the evolution of election means that every voter receives a ballot in the mail for every election, and they get a postage paid envelope to return that ballot, that voted ballot, back to the township. We also basically eliminate most polling locations. We do not need them, and that's where dangerous pandemic scenarios occur. That's also where more issues come in with security, with training, and it's also a huge cost and expense for the township. And in most cases, people have a nostalgic image about going to polling locations, and they have a lot of happy memories, maybe when they were younger, or any number of Hollywood images about going to a polling location. But I've had 8 years of experience, and I can tell you many people find it an inconvenience having to wait in line, even if it's a brief line. And really, there's no need to do this anymore, because we could save money and resources and not have to punish elderly people and work a 16-hour day when we could do the same thing and have it go all across the township and have everybody have their own home become a polling location. So instead of having 19 polling locations, we actually have 20,000 polling locations. Every home becomes a polling location. Every home gets a ballot, and or how many voters are in the home, and everyone gets a posted means to pay to get it back. And what that also does is it eliminates voter suppression. Remember I said earlier voter fraud is basically non-existent, but what is real is voter suppression. Different municipalities across the country sometimes suppress the vote in key areas based on various demographics when they feel the demographics might vote a certain way, and they restrict the number of voting machines, and they make lines go on for 3 or 4 hours, and what that does is discourage voting. That's called voter suppression. Universal vote by mail takes away all voter suppression because everybody gets one in the mail. So that is what I believe the future of elections hold. By the way, there will always be one place that people can go to vote. That will not be taken away. It's usually called a voting center, if that's one term, and we'll have a voting center always available, whether it's at the township hall or we designate another place that would be centrally located. There will always be a place that somebody can go and vote. And if you don't have a traditional address, you can also always get a vote by mail by getting a ballot sent to you to another place like you do right now. Homeless people can still vote and can still get a ballot, and that will still occur under vote by mail. No one is disenfranchised.
Well, much like our communications department has evolved over 20 years, I will lead the clerk's office to evolve as well. I have the skills necessary to evolve changes. Now that Proposal 3 passed in 2018, more and more voters will be able to vote by mail. We need someone with the experience and the ability to evolve with technology, and I have that.
Once again, these are the unofficial results. There are still many results being counted with the absentee ballots. Check out the Ingham County website for more results and our website tomorrow. A reminder to watch our replay of tonight's coverage on HOMTV. Don't forget to tune in to the general election coverage this fall and the second election in November. We'd like to thank you on behalf of HOMTV for tuning in for Your Choice 2020 primary election coverage. A special thank you also to Frank Walsh and all of our crew members who have worked tirelessly behind the scenes. I'm Eva Bratz, and it has been a pleasure spending the evening with you watching the polls roll in together. Be sure to stay up to date with all things Meridian Township related by following us on social media and our website, HOMTV.net. Have a great night, Meridian, and happy election season.